Douluo, the 10 Kings of Hell start the game, shocking Qian Renxue. Chapter 21. The battlefield is not as peaceful as where Qinzheng and Qian Renxue are. When the noble dies, the Yin Guishi was like a desperado, fighting with his life in exchange for his life, and rushed into the Tiando army without hesitation. At the same time, the deputy generals of the Tiando army were also leading the charge. Several soul rings flashed under their feet, and the martial souls in their bodies rippled out, and the soul power contained in their deep bodies raged towards the surroundings. This group of deputy generals are all soul masters at the soul king level. The nobles are all dead. We have nothing to worry about. Charge forward with all our might. First soul skill, Dark Night Claws. Give me, die. Without any hesitation, many people started to take action. Their soul skills covered the surroundings. In an instant, they defeated the ghost messengers that were lingering around them half a mile away. And this was already the limit. The battle can prove that the difference in strength between the two is not that big. The generals of Tiando have the cultivation level of Soul King, and the Yin Ghost envoys are all soul masters. The strength of a soul sect master is more than just a soul sect master. We must go all out. We cannot show any signs of weakness, otherwise the morale of the army will plummet. In an instant, the Soul King level Tiando generals frowned and felt a chill in their bodies. In this battle, they were like donkeys being pushed forward and did not dare to slow down their pace in killing the Yin Gui envoy. Because in this battle, they are not actually relying on them, but the surrounding Tiando army. Otherwise, relying on this group of Soul King level soul masters, they would have died long ago. At this moment, many people in the Tiando army have been killed. If even they show signs of defeat, it will not only be the death of the Tiando army, but also their death. They had never fought such an outrageous battle before, but at this moment they had no choice but to go ahead. Although these skeletons are powerful individually, they are fewer in number than us, which is our advantage. In this battle, the winner will be rewarded with 10 gold coins, the casualties will be rewarded with 100 gold coins, and those who bravely kill the enemy will be given an official title. All troops obey orders and implement the encirclement and suppression tactics. Kill. Facts have proved that those who are able to serve as generals in the Tiando Empire, which has been in constant conflict with the Xingluo Empire, undoubtedly have their own unique leadership tactics. It is very smart to use encirclement and suppression tactics at this moment. Even the soldiers they led were mostly between levels 21 and 30, which was only the level of great soul masters. Even the weakest ones have just awakened and are only at the level of soul warriors. But they were able to quickly find the turning point in this battle, using their own numerical advantage to counter the enemy's weakness, and even promising the soldiers huge sums of money to encourage them to fight bravely and eliminate their fear. As ordered, after hearing about the reward, the Tiando army, which had been hesitant in advancing, suddenly became energized and rushed towards the Yin Guishi fiercely. Click, puff. The death toll on the field began to soar dramatically. The Soul King and Soul Emperor level beings among the Tiando officers and soldiers took action and led the entire army. The Yin Ghost envoys began to suffer huge casualties, their bones broke, and a green glow instantly spread across the sky. But more than that, Tiando officers and soldiers were killed. Because when each Yin Gui envoy died, the remaining Yin Gui envoys slaughtered the Tiando officers and soldiers, began to resurrect, and then picked up the sickles in their hands and swung them out. They are silent, like machines that only know how to kill. But every few breaths, a life is taken away. Blood splattered. Life is withering. As the killing continued, the Tiando army found that they had not yet broken through the skeleton army's camp. Instead, their initial advantage gradually turned into a disadvantage. Finally, someone discovered something was wrong. We've been tricked. Who said they are less numerous than us? I killed at least 3 of them, but I didn't even have time to catch my breath before new skeletons rushed over. Soul Sect. The bones here are still at the Soul Sect level. The strength has not changed. The skeleton here is still at the level of Soul Sect. The skeletons I have here are also from the Soul Sect. At this moment, some people have been frightened by the battle. Looking at the ghost messengers who keep emerging and their numbers are not decreasing, a deadly chill arises deep in their tail vertebrae. It's impossible to kill them all. It's really impossible to kill them all. Look, these skeletons have come back to life. Suddenly, no one knew who said this, and many soldiers looked over, only to see faint rays of light emerging from the location of the ghost envoy who had been killed by them and had his bones shattered. It was a faint green light, the eerie light lingering in the eyes of the ghost messenger. And within this dark green light, there seemed to be other sounds, the crisp sound of click, click, echoed continuously. Then, under the gaze of everyone, the group of skeletons began to reorganize, and soon formed a Yingui envoy holding a sickle again, but this time the Yingui envoy had completely transformed into a human form. Your numerical advantage. It spoke in human language, its voice cold and hoarse. It suddenly sneered and said in an ambiguous way, "Haha, is it really an advantage?" Swa. The next moment, it suddenly swung the sickle in its hand, and a gust of cold wind blew up, bringing up a terrifying blood rain. Outside of it are ghost messengers that have grown flesh and blood, resurrected from hell. After successfully sucking human blood to feed themselves, they no longer need to hide. Kill, kill until the sky is dark and the earth is dark, kill until all the rebels who resist the emperor are dead, kill until the emperor's order is issued. Never stop until death. At this moment, all the surviving Tiando officers and soldiers were so frightened that they took several steps back and lost all will to fight. I can't kill him. I can't kill him at all. These guys are not human, they can't be killed by mortal power. We really can't win. At this point, all the Tiando armies were in disarray and completely defeated. After knowing that the victory they had gained at the cost of their blood was in vain, everyone would collapse. The ability to resurrect, how is that possible? In the distance, the Soul Emperor level commander was also extremely shocked when he saw this scene, and his eyes widened. Because the Yin ghost messengers were previously resurrected in secret in order to condense their physical bodies, few people noticed them. Even if they were discovered, they would be quickly surrounded and killed by them, and would be unable to take any action. The encirclement and suppression tactics are not tactics that only Tiando officers and soldiers know. They, the ghost messengers, understand the same thing. And at this moment, after the Yingui envoy condensed his physical body and no longer concealed it, and was resurrected in the eyes of everyone, the Tiando army, which had been tense all the time, finally died completely. Everyone was running away and the scene was in chaos. In this battle, the Tiando army was already in a state of defeat. Retreat, General, I can't beat him. Soul King level lieutenants began to die, and the survivors began to wail. The soldiers who were supposed to follow orders now began to issue orders to the Soul Emperor General. Puff, puff. The sound of blades cutting into flesh was incessant, and each sound was accompanied by the death of a fleeing Tiando soldier. In this short period of time, the Soul Master army that originally had nearly 30,000 people was reduced to less than 10,000. If the fighting continues, all 30,000 soldiers will be killed. General Tiando listened to these voices and watched the bloody scene happen quickly. His eyes became bloodshot and the remaining soul power in his body began to rage out, frantically sweeping the surrounding battlefield. What? He roared angrily like a mad lion, his eyes full of murderous intent, scanning the city in front of him, and then looking up at the tallest building not far away. Qin Renxue, among the tall buildings. Qin Renxue placed his hand on Qian Renshue's soft waist. Feeling the delicate touch from his fingertips, he looked down at the area outside the city from above. Compared to his usual indifference, he was a little more tyrannical at this moment. That was undisguised tyranny, a look that wanted to kill all the traitors. He watched the legions killing outside the city from beginning to end. There was blood everywhere and corpses everywhere. Qin Renxue was clearly seeing this for the first time, but he didn't feel uncomfortable at all. Seeing the gaze coming from below, he lowered his eyes with a cold look. The Soul Emperor has already touched the edge of high-level Soul Masters in Douluo continent. Even if he is hundreds of miles away from the city, he can still see it clearly with the blessing of the magic eagle soul ring. Penetrating hundreds of miles of void, the two people's gazes collided violently. Boom! At this moment, the gazes of the two people were like thorns against each other, exploding in the void. In the commander's eyes, there was no Qian Renxue who was standing next to Qin Renxue and facing him sideways. In his eyes, there was only Qin Renxue, the culprit who killed tens of thousands of his troops. Feeling the stern gaze of the Soul Emperor, Qin Renxue also looked at him fiercely and refused to give in. The two of them just stared at each other, at the cost of their lives. Ah! After a while, Qin Renxue's mouth suddenly curled up, revealing a smile, and his lips moved softly. This behavior completely changed his previous violent aura. There was no coldness in his expression. Instead, it was full of calmness, like greeting a good friend. But at this moment, the commander felt a chill all over his body, as if he had fallen into an ice cave. Because he could tell what the other party meant from Qin Zheng's silent lip movements. Get lost, you stray dog. Get out of my sight and try your best to escape. That's your only hope of survival. Creak. The commander's fist suddenly clenched. What kind of insult was this? He was a sole emperor general, leading a team of tens of thousands of people. Normally, even the snowy night emperor would give him some face. But in front of this person, I am nothing more than an ant that can be crushed to death at will. Life or death, or how many troops he led, the young man never cared. Because from the moment he lost, he was destined to be ignored by the other party. But even though he was so angry that he wanted to vomit blood, this sole emperor general did not dare to stay. Because if he didn't escape, he would definitely be kept here by tens of thousands of troops. Perhaps if he escaped, the strong men under Qin Zheng would kill him and play a game of cat and mouse with him, but if he didn't escape, then he would lose even the last glimmer of hope. When he thought of this, he looked at Qin Zheng deeply and then withdrew his gaze. At this moment, the commander appeared to have regained his composure and gave orders loudly. Withdraw. As soon as he finished speaking, he quickly disappeared into the shadows of the long street, and there was no trace of him anymore. Escape. The war is over. Only at this point did the soldiers watching the battle at the city gate dare to speak, and the whole hall was instantly in an uproar. Tiandu's army of tens of thousands came in a mighty force, but returned in a disastrous defeat. Tens of thousands of skeletons under Qin Zheng's command, with the momentum of continuous resurrection, forcefully killed tens of thousands of Tiando troops, and blood flowed like a river. This piece of news spread rapidly throughout the city as if it had legs, and then spread out of the city. In a few days, the entire continent is bound to be shaken. Because this is the Tiando Empire. Apart from the Xingluo Empire, no one can make this empire suffer on the battlefield. Even the most powerful martial spirit Pope has to give this country some face on a daily basis. And at this moment, I lost. Defeated by the evil spirits under Qin Zheng's command. Who wouldn't be shocked? Who wouldn't be afraid? Ding! The host's Yin Ghost Envoy killed 7,530 Great Soul Masters, 10,000 Soul Warriors, 3,250 Soul Masters, and 3 Soul Kings, which strongly affected the plot of Tang San's battle against the Wuhun Empire in the future. Get the energy of the military symbol. The detection has obtained 10,000 military energy, and the host has integrated the authority of Emperor Yin, and can be locked and summoned. Detect the host's current energy and use the energy of 10,000 military symbols to summon 20,000 of the 10 great ghost commanders, the Soul Binding Envoy. Note: the Soul Binding Envoy is destined to capture souls and will be killed by the God of Death. Note: the Soul Catcher symbolizes the following characters: ox-headed horse-faced, black and white impermanence. Black and white impermanence requires an additional 10,000 military energy to summon. Specify the summon. Randomly draw. As soon as the war ended, Ji Qinzheng received the settlement news from the system. Impermanence is taking my life. Black and white impermanence still need me to use an additional 10,000 military talisman energies to summon them. Qinzheng narrowed his eyes and looked at the specific information of the system that appeared in front of him, murmured in his heart. Specified summons. He did not need to draw randomly, because the Yin Gui envoy had already proved his ability in this battle. With an army of only 10,000, he was able to rely on the energy of resurrection from the dead to repel the Tiando army that was twice its size. The Yin Guishi and Yan Luo merged into artificial soldiers for the castle fortress, which gave the legion bug-like abilities. Soul Catcher, he was also looking forward to what abilities he would have. After all, the fame of black and white impermanence is known to everyone. The Soul Catcher can't be worse than the Ghost Catcher, right? Detect the host's choice of designated summons, summon 20,000 Soul Collectors. Note: the current space is too small, the host can specify a space for placement. No need to summon now. Wait a little longer, until I send troops to Tiando City. Qinzheng's eyes caused ripples, filled with murderous intent. After repelling the Tiando army that was besieging Lingcheng, his power has reached its peak. The nobles were dead, and the common people dared not rebel against him. Then it is time for him to ascend the throne and become emperor, and then send troops to Tiando City. He wanted to use the head of the eyeless emperor. Pave an invincible road for your own blood and bone throne. Qinzheng, the Tiando army is retreating now. Can you let me go now? At this time, Qian Renxue spoke softly in Qin Zheng's arms. She no longer had the calmness she had at the beginning, and she looked even more guilty, like a little girl who had done something wrong. But out of the corner of his eye, he couldn't help but stare at Qin Zheng's handsome face with sharp features, feeling a little uneasy and a little expectant. At this moment, Qian Renxue no longer reminded Qin Zheng of the consequences of letting go of the Douluo that day. Because the other party had shocked her a lot during this period, whether it was the behavior of the nobles or the things that he had just described to her about the future. This young emperor seemed to have never taken a wrong step. Moreover, I never panicked even for a moment. Even such a major event as fighting the Tiando Empire was just a piece of cake in his eyes. The words, able to plan and win battles from afar, are no longer enough to describe him. Therefore, Qian Renxue now has a love-hate relationship with him. Because no matter which girl she is, she has always admired the strong since ancient times. And Qin Zheng now has obviously far exceeded her expectations. Therefore, Qian Renxue was afraid that this young man would really break down as she expected, and make her a maid. At the same time, she also expects this young man to be able to break through with strength, make plans, and rule the world. Hearing this, Qin Zheng seemed to suddenly realize something, and then looked at her strangely, somewhat confused as to why this woman suddenly became like this, but he still consciously let go of Qian Renxue. The city has not been taken and the emperor has not yet sat on the throne. Now is not the time for him to think about such things between men and women. Your Majesty, what should we do next? King Qin Guang asked. Compared to Qian Renxue, he knew better how deep the thoughts of the young emperor in front of him were, so when Qin Zheng deliberately let him go, he had no intention of persuading him. Write a book in my name and spread it to all directions. I know that the two armies are fighting. It is very distressing for the people in the city. Therefore, I am deeply sorry for fighting the Tiando army. But Shui Yi and the nobles could not distinguish between loyalty and treachery. They colluded with the nobles and killed the loyal and good people without authorization, causing almost all of my Qin family to be beheaded. I can ignore this vengeance, but if I let this tyrant do nothing, I'm afraid the lives of the people in the world will be ruined. In this case, I will do the opposite. I will ascend the throne today and send troops to Tiando City. On the day I ascend the throne, those who come to pay homage will be exempt from taxes for a year. And I will grant amnesty to all the people in the city. If you don't come, you won't be punished. No punishment. On that day, after the news that tens of thousands of Yingui envoys under Qin Zheng's command had defeated the Tiando Iron Army spread like wildfire. There was more news in Lingcheng. The Qin government and the Tiando officers and soldiers were originally one family, without distinction between them. However, because the Tiando Emperor Shui Yi was cruel and inhumane, his governance was incompetent, he regarded the people as straw dogs, and massacred the entire innocent Qin family. Qin Zheng rebelled in anger and defeated 30,000 Tiando soldiers. But Qin Zheng, considering their common roots, could not bear to see his brothers killing each other, so he let the defeated army of Tiando go and did not want to wipe out the entire clan. He ascended the throne in Lingcheng and proclaimed himself emperor, naming the country Qin in an attempt to purge the court of corrupt officials. Those who worship Qin will be exempted from tax for 1 year, given 3 silver soul coins, and a general amnesty. There is no penalty or punishment for those who do not wish to worship. As soon as this news came out, it caused an uproar again. 3 silver soul coins, this is nearly a year's income for my family. Now I can get it just by worshipping. Prayer is secondary. If I really don't go, will I really be able to survive? The nobles' previous experience is still fresh in my mind. Besides, this young Duke Qin is also a nobleman. Will he really care about us? Are you a fool? When the Tiando army was defeated at the city gate, the skeleton army did not pursue them. Doesn't this prove what young Duke Qin was thinking? That's right, I think submission is far better than resistance. We can't have a civil war among our own people, can we? Many people responded, and had no intention of siding with the Tiando Empire. After all, in terms of strength, the mysterious soul master under Qin Zheng's command, who could kill all the nobles and the imperial guards with a wave of his hand, had already brought them a strong sense of oppression. Especially the remaining nobles in the city, they were grateful that they had not gambled lavishly and thus saved their families. In terms of power, although the Tiando Empire has millions of soldiers and controls thousands of miles of mountains and rivers, Qin Zheng is not weak either. The powerful soul masters under his command have not even made a move, but they have already defeated the Tiando army. This is enough to prove that the army under Qin Zheng's command is not inferior to the Tiando army and is even better. Besides, in addition to Qin Zheng's coercion and inducement, he even let go of Tiandu's main general who came to slaughter him. This behavior is undoubtedly very correct. He who wins the hearts of the people wins the world. Qin Zheng's move not only lets others know that he is determined to kill the tyrant, but not to fight internally. More importantly, he had a legitimate reason to do so, and no one could point out any problems. We are of the same roots, so why are we so eager to fight each other? His purpose of this trip is to clear the court of corrupt officials. This is an act of noble virtue. Therefore, Qin Zheng's words moved many civilians in the city. In the Tiando Empire, the people who are most likely to rebel are undoubtedly the common people. Because they have been oppressed by the nobles for many years and the emperor has turned a deaf ear to them, they have long been disheartened and are powerless to resist. They are often only one spark away from rebellion. Now, this fuse seems to have appeared, allowing them to see the light. 50 miles north of Lingcheng, in a big mountain, thorny porpoise Douluo stood with his hands behind his back, surrounded by thousands of soul masters covered with black cloth. Their aura was overwhelming, and just a trace of their aura leaked out was enough to show that they were at the Soul Master stage. An elite army of thousands of Soul Masters starting from the Soul Master level. And this is just one of the forces of the Spirit Hall in the Heaven Do Empire, not all of them. As for the Tiando Empire, even if they only sent out 10,000 Soul Masters, it would be extremely difficult. It is clear at a glance which one is stronger and which one is weaker. In front of thousands of people, thorny porpoise Douluo stood on the top of the mountain, looking down at the battle between the Yin Ghost Envoy and the Tiando army without saying a word. It was not until he saw Qian Renxue, who had transformed into Prince Shui Qinghe, in Qin Zheng's arms, acting shyly, that his deep pupils finally began to stir. What does this mean? The army was defeated, so why is the young master so happy? He is being so affectionate with Qin Zheng. Did the young master change his strategy? Is it a beauty trap or a beauty trap? It should be a beauty trap. It's impossible that Qin Zheng has such a big appetite that he won't even let go of the male transformed by the young master. In that case, should I still beat Qin Zheng? At this moment, a lot of thoughts flashed through thorny porpoise Douluo's mind. The close distance between Qian Renxue and Qin Zheng made him constantly guess and make all the inferences, making him very hesitant. He was very afraid that he would ruin Qian Renshue's investment in Qin Zheng because of his ignorance. Because Qian Renxue looks unusually happy. But soon, when he saw the remnants of the Tiando soldiers retreating and the Yin Gui envoy not pursuing them, his eyes suddenly turned cold. Forget it. Since we don't know the whole story, let's help the young master clean up these miscellaneous soldiers first. Anyway, no matter whether they died here or not, no one would associate it with the Spirit Hall. On the contrary, it can help me test the young master's mind. Everyone, follow me and kill those who flee from the battlefield. After all, he is just an ignorant child. Qin Zheng. If you let me go today, I promise that this will be the thing you regret the most in the future. The Soul Emperor led the surviving soldiers away from the official road. His eyes were red with anger, and everything that had just happened kept appearing in his mind. His heart was full of murderous intent towards Qin Zheng. He was undoubtedly one of the most prominent men in command of the three armies in the absence of Goran, the #1 man in the army. He must not tolerate this great defeat. When he regroups, he will make Qin Zheng regret his whole life. Kill, right now, a shout echoed throughout the valley. As soon as he finished speaking, more than hundreds of figures suddenly emerged from the shadows on both sides, with surging soul power and terrifying martial arts weapons suddenly appearing, which was even more frightening. In the blink of an eye, those figures had already arrived close to Tiandu's defeated army. Without saying a word, they would kill anyone they found. They were as dark and overwhelming as a swallowing abyss, annihilating everything. What? Police. Puff. Although many of the deputy generals surrounding General Tiando were killed, there were still 3 or 2 more, all of whom were Soul Kings. However, they were all killed in an instant before they could react. That devil hasn't let us go yet. Fight back and kill them. Someone reacted and shouted, but before he could finish his words, an unfamiliar blood-red sword swept over his head, and the red blade light flashed, directly chopping off his head. Presumptuous. The Soul Emperor General looked furious and crazy, his soul power raged out, sweeping away everything around him. He was ready to take action and fight back with his own death. Die. However, the terrifying punch turned into a stream of light and came in front of him in the blink of an eye. Before he could react, he was turned into a ball of blood mist by the soul power filled in the punch. Boom! The Soul Emperor General who led the 3 armies was hit by this punch. Died instantly. The visitor was dressed in black, with his face not covered at all, but the 9 soul rings flashing around him made him look like a god of death descending, with overwhelming momentum. 9 rings, titled Douluo. Level 93 control type titled Douluo, Thorny Porpoise Douluo. Kill, leave no one behind. The bloody killing continues madly. Not far away, there is an area where figures are obscured by treetops. King Qin Guang looked at the scene coldly. When he saw the Thorny Porpoise Douluo appear, his eyes narrowed slightly, and the crown on his head moved without wind, making him look somewhat solemn. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. No wonder His Majesty let these people leave. This move can not only win him a reputation and make the people in the city think he is a saint, but also kill someone with a borrowed knife, so that this group of scattered enemy troops will die completely on the battlefield. This strategy is truly ingenious. It even calculates 3 steps on the chessboard. The master I follow is really thoughtful. As soon as he finished speaking, his figure slowly dissipated from the spot and turned into a ball of black mist heading towards Lingcheng. Now that the matter was settled, he no longer had the idea of solving the emperor's worries. He came quietly and left quietly, and no one on either side of the battle noticed his presence. Only the killing continued. Duke Qin's mansion. On the periphery, people are constantly gathering together, and their momentum is extremely crazy. Stop and line up. Register. Every household can receive silver soul coins. The ghost messenger transformed into a human form stood outside the Duke's mansion, with a desk set up. The heavy ghost coins were in the bag. He glanced at the people in front of him who came to receive them, registered them, and then distributed the silver soul coins. With them maintaining order, even though the Duke's mansion was surrounded by so many people, there was no noise at all. After receiving the silver soul coins, they stood quietly by. Everyone is waiting for the young emperor who wants to become emperor to appear. Inside the mansion, Qin Zheng sat quietly on the main seat, opened the introduction to the military talisman and read it carefully. Next to him was Qian Renxue, who was dressed in boy's clothes. She quietly supported her snow-white chin. Her clear and cold eyes reflected the figure of the boy in black clothes, and flashed with strange light. Neither of them said anything. Soul Catcher. 6 Case Gongsao, under the command of the 10 Great Ghost Commanders. Realm Seal Conversion. The bull-headed and horse-faced are both level 75 soul saints. The rest are soul lords. Heroic spirit projection, trapped in a permanent seal, can be unlocked through subsequent killings. Note: the highest realm is the Ghost Immortal, which cannot be upgraded further. Introduction to the army. The Ghost Messenger of the Underworld is responsible for patrolling the Yin and Yang worlds and arresting souls in the world of the living. He can face being controlled by the 10 Kings of Hell and be revived by their orders. Soldier Ability 1. Destined to capture souls, death and impermanence. Can cross dreams, capture souls, can connect with the Book of Life and Death in the hands of the 10 Yamas, and sees souls thousands of miles away. Soldier Ability 2. Can blend into the living world and be seen by the world, can cross the underworld and be invisible to the world. Soldier Ability 3. Killing a person by means of soul snatching can temporarily summon the soul of the deceased with % of his abilities in life. Note: during the soul snatching moment, the original owner's strength remains unchanged. Note: if killed in battle, you need to revive with 100 soldier talisman energies. The Yin Ghost Envoy can be resurrected through killing, but the flaw is that it is restricted by the 10 Kings of Hell. But this soul catcher can travel through the Yin and Yang worlds, and work with the Book of Life and Death in the hands of the 10 Kings of Hell. It's okay for him to catch souls thousands of miles away, but he can even steal people's souls for his own use. Even if it can't summon the soul of a powerful soul master, this ability is quite interesting. After figuring out the capabilities of this type of soldier, Qin Zheng smiled. Judging from their cultivation, these 20,000 soul summoners are not as good as the previous Yin Ghost Envoys. But judging from their abilities, these 20,000 soul summoners are definitely more abnormal than the Yin Ghost Envoys. The 2 ox-head and horse-faced soul saints, as well as positioning and tracking, are secondary. The main thing is to enter dreams and capture souls. Looking at the entire Douluo continent, who can resist this ability? To put it bluntly, if you release one into the dream of the spirit Pope Bibidong every day, even if you can't kill the other party, you can at least make the other party suffer from nervous breakdown. Swa! A stream of black smoke came straight from the window and turned into a human shape in front of Qin Zheng. King Qin Guang bowed and said, "Your Majesty, the people outside the palace have gathered." "Well, the time has come." Qin Zheng nodded, and then looked at Qian Renxue slowly. "You want to join me?" But he remembered that Qian Renxue's current identity was not suitable for her to show up in public. "Your ascension to the throne is inevitable." Qian Renxue looked at him and smiled. "As the crown prince of the Tiando Empire, I will undoubtedly be ridiculed if I am found with you. So, I won't go, I'll just watch you from below." "It is good. Out." Now, outside the Duke Qin's mansion, the door was wide open. Qin Zheng walked out of the door slowly. He glanced around. In front of him, on both sides of the Qin family's gate, thousands of ghost messengers wearing full armor and holding sickles stood solemnly. There are crowds of people all around. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Qin Zheng was not at all flustered and walked forward slowly. As for Qian Renxue, she was already off the field at this moment, transformed into a middle-aged man, looking at the young man on the field. Dazzling, majestic, and with a face like a divine jade. Such a man should only exist in heaven, and no one on earth can compare to him in half a bit. Qian Renxue stared with laughter, and she didn't even realize that her inner anxiety about Qin Zheng's victory and her becoming a maid had dissipated a little. Perhaps, after knowing Qin Zheng for so long and knowing what kind of person he is, they are more like gamblers than good friends. She didn't think that if she lost, the other party would really make her a maid. Time flies. 2 days have passed since I started fighting the royal guards. The battlefield is changing rapidly, and my army cannot stay here for long. Fortunately, you all know what I want to do, so I won't say any polite words. I wish to be crowned emperor and the name of my country shall be Qin. Everyone, are you willing to bow your head for me?" Qin Zheng stood on the high platform, looking majestically at everything below. After a series of battles, even though Qin Zheng's face was calm at this moment, the aura of an emperor within him was becoming increasingly stronger. Among the hundreds of thousands of people present, no one dared to look down on him. Immediately, countless voices echoed throughout the city. "Common people, congratulate the new emperor on his ascension to the throne. Long live my emperor, long live my emperor." This was just a formality. Even if Qin Zheng didn't say anything, these people would submit to him. Therefore, the people in the city would naturally not lose face. As the voices of the people in the city echoed, the destiny of the human emperor in Qin Zheng's body began to turn. Congratulations to the host, for gaining the recognition of 700,000 people. Gaining the power of human destiny. It has been detected that there are human beings in this territory. The human race cannot be sealed unconditionally. Unlocking conditions. The power of the luck of millions of human races, ascending the throne of the emperor. 700,000 people. These guys are hiding deep enough. Looking at the words the system reminded him of, Qin Zheng's eyes flashed with a cold light. In the Tiando Empire, even in the border cities farthest from the imperial city, the number of people killed by Dugu Bo's poison that day was 500,000. But now, in a city hundreds of miles away from the imperial capital, there are only 700,000 people who submit to him. There are also many people who are keeping their hands off, wanting to see if he can survive. How many of them are spies buried here by other forces? "Ah, I am looking forward to your appearance." With a sneer in his heart, Qin Zheng regained his composure. He was well aware that there were many people from other forces in the city. He knew even more clearly that as soon as he left, all kinds of monsters and demons in the city would emerge. Because he only summoned King Qin Guang, the rest of the Yingui envoy soldiers were only soul sect cultivators. During this period of time, he did not block the news in the city, and was frantically passing it on to the outside. If he does not strengthen his military force, the city will surely be lost once he leaves. But this is also what he thought. The nobles died, but it was not enough. Only by casting a long line can you catch the big fish. More people need to die. Otherwise, the soul catchers under his command, the 9 Yamas, have yet to use their skills. Thinking of this, Qin Zheng saw that the matter had come to an end and was unwilling to waste any more time on it. Leave 5,000 elite soldiers behind to guard Lingcheng. The rest of you, follow me and send troops to Tiando City. Send that tyrant to his coffin. After he finished speaking, Qin Zheng left the scene. The surrounding Yin ghost messengers and King Qin Guang behind him all spoke in a solemn voice. Your Highness, wait, I will obey the order of the Emperor. Quote dash 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 quote. Tens of thousands of ghost messengers stood solemnly, their hoarse voices spread in all directions, stirring up gusts of cold wind. And this scene was only described by one person. This scene is undoubtedly huge and is also the most exciting moment for men. Fenglangjushu, the king of the world. Start now. As shown on the map, there are 5 cities of the Tiando Empire nearby. In the carriage, Qin Zheng looked at the map hanging in front of him. The map contained the territory of the Tiando Empire. From cities to villages, the strength of the defenders and the terrain were all marked. Even dangerous places were pointed out by red dots. Although there are many differences from reality, it is more than enough as a marching plan. At this moment, Qin Zheng's eyes fell on the map, and the huge city surrounded by a circle. The 5 cities are all plains and close to the imperial city. If he could take it, it would definitely increase the military ability he needed most. This will definitely be 100 benefits to his rebellion with no harm at all. So, what I need to consider now is to summon the 10 kings of hell to directly capture these cities, seize the energy of the military talisman, and then kill Shui Yi directly. Or, are we going to just pass through these cities and head straight to Tiando Imperial City? Or, take a roundabout way and take the surrounding cities first, and then take Tiando City? Qin Zheng lowered his eyes and thought, now the army under his command, if the 10 kings of hell are not counted, there are only 5,000 troops, attacking the city will only be a waste of manpower. But if he leaves the 10 kings of hell alone in the city to suppress them, he will send troops there after obtaining the energy of the military talisman. Not to mention the time difference, he also doesn't want his cards to be exposed too early. The Qin dynasty fell, in addition to the harsh laws and tyranny of the Qin dynasty. The most important thing is that they played their cards too quickly, and after destroying all the surrounding countries, they failed to eradicate the remnants. From top to bottom, it rots too fast. This led to the peasant uprising, with too many rebel forces emerging one after another, and finally Shang Yu took the lead. If he were the same as Qin Chao, he would certainly be able to take down the Tiando Empire, but the water was too deep. Apart from the characters summoned by the system, he dared not use anyone else. And if he doesn't use the rest of the people, what's the point of him taking over this empire, except for obtaining the energy of the military token? The king is not a king, and the minister is not a minister. What is the purpose of his summoning? How can I obtain the power of the emperor? The power of the Yin emperor? But, if we don't use the methods of the 10 kings of hell? There is another way, but this method is slightly risky. If we don't pay attention, our entire army will be wiped out. After a moment's silence, Qin Zheng turned his attention to the introduction of the Soul Catcher's military capabilities. Soldier Ability 1. Destined to capture souls, death and impermanence. Can cross dreams, capture souls, can connect with the Book of Life and Death in the hands of the 10 Yamas, and sees souls thousands of miles away. Soldier Ability 2. Can blend into the living world and be seen by the world, can cross the underworld and be invisible to the world. Soldier Ability 3. Killing a person by means of soul snatching can temporarily summon the soul of the deceased with % of his abilities in life. Let's play, a big one. After thinking for a long time, Qin Zheng said to King Qin Guang next to him. King Qin Guang, if I give you 5,000 troops, how long will it take you to capture these cities? Listen carefully, what I want is for you to defend the city after you have attacked it. Upon hearing this, King Qin Guang narrowed his eyes and looked at the distance of the city on the map. Your Majesty, if I go there alone, I will kill all the guards in the city within 5 breaths. But if we want to quickly capture 5 cities in a row, and defend the city, I dare not give more guarantees. Even you don't dare to say more. Qin Zheng frowned and continued to lower his head. When King Qin Guang saw that Qin Zheng had fallen silent, he also remained silent. Although he is the king of the underworld, he really knows nothing about marching and fighting. After all, in the ancient world, one does not occupy the world by relying on the strength of the military but by real strength. For example, when Sun Wukong made trouble in heaven and killed 100,000 heavenly soldiers and generals with a stick, this is an example. Although the specific number of enemies killed is certainly different from 100,000, no matter it is more or less, it can prove that in the prehistoric world, as long as one is strong, except for the luck of one clan, all of them will be killed. Even if one is strong enough and reaches the level of Taishang Laojun and Hongjun, one can even fight against the backlash of heaven, forcibly change the future cause and effect, and ignore the laws of destiny. As for Qian Renxue, she sat opposite Qin Zheng. Looking at the thoughtful look in Qin Zheng's eyes, she could not see the cowardice and nervousness of the others. All she had was the depth of the abyss and the unconcealed flames. In the flames, she saw Qin Zheng's desire for power and his lust for killing. This young man never knew what fear was. He really wants to take over the 5 surrounding cities directly. After thinking for a while, Qian Renxue coughed softly and said, Qin Zheng, in Tiando City, there is the Elemental Nobles Academy, and there are also 3 Seoul Douluo teaching committee members of the Tiando Royal Academy, as well as many forces. If you drive straight in, there's a high chance you can take them down before they can react. In fact, Qian Renxue wanted to say that with Qin Zheng's current situation, the chances of winning the attack on Tiando City are 0. But the battle between the Yin Ghost Envoy and the Tiando army did have a huge psychological impact on Qian Renxue. She had never seen any army so brave and fearless. Therefore, Qian Renxue did not deny it directly. Because she wanted Qin Zheng to surrender to her in a glorious defeat. I also want to let the other party's ghost messenger show his strength. But, Qin Zheng still frowned when he heard this. Is that so? In this case, if we want to capture 5 cities in a row and obtain the energy of the military talisman, we can only rely on the soul summoner. Immediately, in the somewhat puzzled eyes of Qian Renxue and King Qin Guang, Qin Zheng started to summon the soul catcher without any hesitation. Fate is about taking away souls, and impermanence is about taking lives. Zan, the soul collector of the underworld. Throw it here and meet the emperor. Tread tap. As the words fell, a loud and noisy sound suddenly came from the outside. The sound was like thunder, and when they stepped on the ground, it brought up a bit of a tremor. Obviously, this was a team with strong strength and even strict discipline. Qin Zheng, does he have other strong men under his command? Listen to the sound of horse hooves, are they all cavalry? Qian Renxue and King Qin Guang were naturally familiar with the scene where Qin Zhengshuan came to the court for an audience and then the army appeared. Even after hearing the word, soul catcher, from Qin Zheng's mouth, King Qin Guang's eyes flashed with dazzling colors. The soul catchers, among whom black and white impermanence and ox-head and horse-faced impermanence are directly under his command. He is very clear about the abilities of the soul collector. If he was not sure he could go back and forth in a short time before, then with the addition of the soul catcher, he was now sure he could go back and forth quickly between the 5 cities and defend the cities. Swa, Qian Renxue and King Qin Guang were the first to get out of the carriage. When she saw that, Qian Renxue took a breath of cold air instantly. What is this? In her sight, on the official road around her in the dense forest, one horse after another passed through the jungle, and after a few leaps, they appeared in the field as light as a swallow and then slowly stopped. It was not until more and more people fell into the field that Qian Renxue realized that the horse hoof sounds she had just heard were not from cavalry but from people. Or rather, a group of horses with human-like physiques, densely packed together. And, awesome, tread, tread, tread. The leader, wearing silver armor and with a burly horse-faced and ox-headed figure, walked forward and looked forward, or to be precise, in the carriage, with a gaze like thunder and bowed his head. Minister, ox-head, horse-faced, lead 20,000 soul collectors. See your majesty. The voices of the 2 of them were earth-shaking, and the negative energy swept out and lingered for a long time, making the leaves rustle, as if innocent ghosts were wailing, making people's hair stand on end. At the same time, the soul catcher behind was also shouting. See your majesty. As soon as he finished speaking, a terrifying force burst out, suppressing the man on the spot. A level 75 soul saint, a ghost messenger from the underworld, with an ox head and human hands, ox hooves on both feet, strength that can move mountains, and holding a steel hairpin. Bullhead, a level 75 soul saint, a ghost messenger from the underworld, a horse-headed Rakshasa, holding a steel fork. Horse-faced, and his 20,000 soul catcher army stood in front of Qin Zheng. 2 soul saints of level 75, and nearly 20,000 soul lord troops around them. Although these guys look ugly, their strength should not be underestimated. Looking at the tens of thousands of ox-headed and horse-faced demons in front of her who were bowing in an orderly formation, wearing majestic armor, holding double forks, and making a mighty noise, Qian Renxue narrowed her eyes slightly. It's strange. Our spirit hall has been here for such a long time, why have we never heard of such a large army? Where did Qin Zheng summon such an army from? How many such strong troops does he have under his command? At this moment, Qian Renshue's mood, which had never been disturbed, began to waver, and she looked at Qin Zheng behind her. She totally couldn't understand Qin Zheng. Qian Renxue originally thought that the 10,000 yin guixi in front of her were already Qin Zheng's top army. But with the appearance of the soul catcher, she realized that she seemed to have never seen through this young man at all. As the daughter of the Pope of the Spirit Hall, Qian Renxue asked herself that even if Tang San, the biological son of Houshan Douluo, was known to her, he could not hide his identity for long, let alone such a large army. But, before Qin Zheng called for the army to come out, no news had been released. It was so quiet that it seemed as if there had never been such an army in the world. It was like it had just walked out of the underworld. An army with such concealment capabilities is enough to make everyone fear it. No one would have thought that they would fall asleep at home and wake up to be surrounded by tens of thousands of troops. Qin Zheng, how many secrets are there behind you? Qin Zheng, dressed in a dark suit, walked out of the carriage. Looking at the black mass of ox-head and horse-faced soul masters in front of him, a cold light flashed in his eyes. Prince Qin Guang, tell me, if I need you to capture 5 cities in succession within 1 hour and defend the city for a day, can you do it? These words made Qian Renxue, who was standing next to him, look at Qin Zheng deeply, her eyes changing rapidly. When King Qin Guang, who had remained silent the whole time, heard Qin Zheng's words, he did not dare to hesitate and said, Your Majesty, I will not let you down. If you fail to take the 5 cities, I will not retreat until I die. The sound was like thunder in the void, dull and violent. The murderous intent seemed to become material and was full of oppression. Obviously, he was serious about what he said. Qin Zheng looked at him, smiled indifferently, and his eyes shone with a shining light. Well said. Who in the world can bear the terrifying murderous intent of an ultimate Douluo? Qin Zheng is also looking forward to this. All troops obey orders. From now on, follow King Qin Guang. Take over the 5 surrounding cities at all costs. If there are any who resist or refuse to obey, they will all be killed. No one will be spared. Unless we defeat the enemy, we will never turn back. As Qin Zheng finished speaking, tens of thousands of ox-headed and horse-faced beasts responded loudly, with the fierce murderous intent on their bodies soaring into the sky. The dark golden eyes of the evil beasts were cold to the bone, and their fighting spirit was overwhelming. Your subjects, we will obey the Emperor's order. Unless we defeat the enemy, we will never turn back. Qin Zheng watched all this and waved his sleeves. Divide the troops and take 5 cities. Yes, sir. The 20,000 ox-headed and horse-faced monsters instantly merged with the shadows underground and disappeared on the spot. It cannot be seen, heard, or even heard. Only Qin Zheng, who was blessed with the fate of Emperor Yin, could see clearly that the tens of thousands of soul catchers had already escaped into the underworld, divided into 4 groups, and were running madly at a terrifying speed. I'm afraid this trip will cause great suffering to all living beings. Qian Renxue was standing next to Qin Zheng. She watched as the previously sinister army of soul catchers completely disappeared. She suddenly spoke, and no one understood what she meant. What's wrong? Qin Zheng looked at her, smiling, are you scared of my decision? No. Qian Renxue shook her head. She had long been indifferent to human life. I'm more curious about why you could have conquered Tiando with such an overwhelming force. We must take the risk and attack the remaining cities. You should know that this approach is inconsistent with your sending troops in the name of clearing the court of corrupt officials. You are very smart and what you said is right, but don't forget. Qin Zheng paused, his eyes became deeper and deeper, with a coldness that saw through the world. Clear the imperial court, this is what I told the world. This is also the key reason why I want to be emperor. But, my grandfather died at the hands of the nobles, at the hands of Shui Yi, and this is also a fact. No matter what I think or what my purpose is, I must avenge my family's vengeance. Send troops to the surrounding cities, and I will only kill those who resist. This is my ultimatum to them. If you understand the truth, you will surrender. If you don't, I will kill you. If the people of that land want to rebel against me, If I give up revenge for those ignorant people, I will not be able to face my grandfather in the underworld. Qin Zheng said calmly, and then he looked forward. His eyes did not have the youthful vigor, but were full of coldness. Will the nobles and the Tiando army collapse and surrender to him? Will not. This is not a guess, but a certainty. Qin Zheng is very sure that this group of guys will not surrender to him. The long-standing imperial rules have bent their spines. Are you soft-hearted and think that the enemy will abandon the city and surrender? Are you holding back? Such a person can never become an emperor throughout the ages. He, Qin Zheng, is not that kind of person. Therefore, when the soul catcher goes into battle this time, he will only kill and will not stop. Ah, Ghost Envoy, obey my orders and keep moving forward. I will arrive at Tiando City before tomorrow. With a wave of his sleeves, Qin Zheng turned around and sat back in the carriage. 5,000 troops continued to march towards Tiando City. Behind him, Qian Renxue looked at Qin Zheng's departing back for a long time without saying a word. These words were completely inconsistent with the holy deeds he had done earlier to gain the people's submission. But she couldn't refute it. Because what Qin Zheng said makes a lot of sense. Taking the city is just pure revenge, revenge against the nobles. To be honest, if her grandfather Qian Douluo was killed by someone, even if she was defeated, she would definitely try her best to kill that person, and no one could blame her. Only, can the hatred of genocide really turn a teenager into a natural emperor who can plan everything for the future without any mistakes? I don't quite believe it. General, that kid Qin Zheng has not blocked the news, and the spies have already found out everything. All the nobles in Lingcheng have been killed. The 30,000 troops mobilized by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince were all killed in the Battle of Lingcheng. That little Qin Zheng is leading an army of 5,000 victorious soldiers towards Tiando City. He is unstoppable. The Soul Sect guard who was walking back and forth with an anxious look on his face suddenly darkened when he heard the news. He looked at the man and said, "He didn't come to Yangcheng." It would be a lie to say you are not panicking. Qin Zheng was able to slaughter all 30,000 troops led by the Soul Emperor, let alone him. As for sending troops, whether Tiando City survives or is destroyed, what does it have to do with him? As long as the Qin Zheng doesn't come to his territory, it will be fine. No, the spy reported honestly. Great. The Soul Sect's general laughed, and the heavy stone that had been hanging in his heart fell to the ground with a bang. Then it seems that the city gate doesn't need to be closed. That's great. When he laughs, the wheel of hell. Countless horses and cows' hooves trampled the city gate. The densely packed ox-headed and horse-faced monsters looked at the prosperous everything in the city, with a bloodthirsty smile on their lips. Kill. Thousands of ox-headed and horse-faced figures holding double forks floated in every corner of the city. Finally, they gathered in the military camp and stopped. Hook the soul. Whoever can hunt down the evil spirit depends on their own ability. The bull-headed leader grinned, emitting a chilling aura. The soul catchers lingering around him had greed and murderous intent in their eyes. They bowed and then went their separate ways. Evil ghosts haunt souls, and death demands lives. When the god of death is no longer around, no one can control the evil spirits from haunting souls. After smelling the scent of living people, they could no longer suppress the murderous intent in their hearts. Bang, bang, bang. Inside the military camp, the sound of knocking on doors could be heard constantly, making it impossible for the young soldiers to fall asleep. He picked up the pillow in his hand and smashed it into the crack of the door. Boom. What a stupid thing. I'm on night duty today, why are you making so much noise? Don't come in if you forgot your keys. The young soldier cursed and was about to change direction to sleep. However, the knocking on the door outside not only did not stop, but became more rampant, and even started to hit with fists. At the same time, a hoarse voice echoed in the room. Some people say that I am an alcoholic, whore, gambler, thief, and cheater. If I hadn't been gifted and become a great spirit master at such a young age, I would have died before the age of 10. But I don't believe it. I believe good people don't live long, but bad people live 1,000 years. In fact, that's true. 3 days ago, a poor farmer who only knew how to farm married a beautiful wife. In order to make a living, he asked his wife to deliver vegetables to the military camp. It's nothing. The Tiando Empire has strict military discipline. I don't dare to do anything. But his wife was disobedient and wanted to seduce me. I had love with her, but she wanted to sue me. I was so angry that I beat her to death. Is that too much? They insulted my reputation, so I took the remaining money from their family and ran away. Isn't that too much? Listening to the familiar voices outside and the stories that continue to echo. The young soldier's eyes suddenly widened, all sleepiness gone. He looked at the closed door in disbelief, then turned his head with difficulty, turned over the pillow, and looked at the 3 big gintama coins. What does it mean? At this moment, his dark pupils were filled with shock, fear, and a hint of hysteria hidden deep inside. The sound outside the door had disappeared, replaced by deathly silence. There was silence for a long while, and then a hoarse and low voice broke the silence. It's ridiculous that you are innocent of such a sin. Come with me and take a walk. He. A drop of sweat slid down the young soldier's forehead, his eyes gradually filled with blood red, and the 3 spirit rings on his body blossomed, and a night-cat martial spirit merged with it. Boom! The next moment, the door was violently pushed open. The young soldier stared at the door in front of him and couldn't help but suffocate. At the gate, a bull-headed man holding a soul-catching iron chain was standing. In front of him, a young man lowered his head, half of his head had collapsed, and blood had stained his entire face red. But the young soldier saw clearly that the face was his own. What the hell? The young soldier murmured in a low voice, his eyes filled with disbelief. Then, he seemed to see the shocked look of the young soldier. The monster with a bull's head and a human body also looked at him, grinned, and began to laugh. He, I found you. At this moment, the negative energy on its body rose into the sky. In the military camps of 5 consecutive cities, PFF'd, several soldiers who were resting suddenly sat up, straightened their bodies, stood up stiffly, lowered their heads, their eyes were hazy, with a blood-red light in the depths, and walked towards the door. Soul-catching execution. The evil spirits have been captured, and the ability to trigger the troops has been strengthened. Triggering soldier ability. Can temporarily summon the soul of the deceased with 30% of his abilities in life. Enhancement duration. 3 hours. Creak. The door opened, and the Tiando soldiers walked slowly toward the door. At the same time, people like this person were common in the military camp. Almost every soldier on night shift or who dozed off during lunch break would start walking abnormally. The group walked out without any concealment. Their destination is the city gate. 4 cities. At the city gates, there are military tents standing for more than 10 miles, with people taking turns on duty at all times, and the situation is on high alert. Countless soldiers were on high alert, and no one dared to ignore the possibility of Qin Zhenghui's attack. Only, all these soldiers, attention was focused outside the city gate. After all, outside the city gate, Qin Zheng's army of thousands was still marching forward and had not yet gone far away. Some soldiers held their weapons nervously, their hands sweating profusely. However, they didn't notice. At this time, death has quietly come to them. One after another, figures in armor passed by them, and then they looked at the soldiers holding weapons in front of them, and the red light in their eyes could no longer be concealed. A flash of cold light flashed in his hand. PFF'd. There were several sounds of blood spurting out. The alert Tiando defender looked at the person behind him with a look of shock and daze. He raised his hand and pointed at the other person, wanting to say something, but the severe pain in his neck made him unable to speak. Blood gushed out wildly from the broken throat and respiratory tract. With a thud, the defenders fell down with a loud thud, without any sign of life. The killing is expanding infinitely with an overwhelming advantage. Open the gate and welcome the Lord into the city. Keep killing. Below the city gate, thousands of soul catchers, holding double-pronged weapons, stood tall and silent outside the city. Their evil beast eyes were filled with eerie black light. Creak. Soon, the city gates opened. Thousands of soul catchers raised their heads, as if a mechanism had been activated. Their cold eyes emitted several fierce murderous intents, and then they began to move and walked towards the city gate. Their footsteps were heavy, like the song of death echoing at the city gate. Neat and eerie. What the hell? What are these guys? Not long after they walked, they heard shocked shouts. They turned around and saw that many soldiers had discovered that the evil spirit was killing people and began to disperse. Then they stopped in their tracks with cold eyes. This group of evil spirits can attack in a surprise attack, but their strength is still a little lacking. Let's attack together and kill. There were horse-faced men speaking in a sinister manner. They had already reduced casualties to a great extent by using the souls they had brought to the city. Now that the gate was open, they could ensure that no one could escape from here. Therefore, they don't have to hide anymore. This was a massacre. Tread tap. As soon as he finished speaking, the soul catchers around him jumped out, and transformed into several different afterimages in the air, heading towards the top of the city wall, first to catch the souls and then to kill the enemies. As their opponent weakens and we grow stronger, it is only a matter of time before the city falls. 20,000 soul catchers marched in all directions towards the 4 cities. When they were all possessed, thousands of soldiers who had been in the barracks for many years suddenly rose up and began to slaughter Tiando officers and soldiers frantically, causing considerable casualties, and then opened the city gates. Afterwards, the soul catcher escaped into the underworld, fell into an unlockable state, and began to catch souls and hunt crazily. The killing was spreading wildly with overwhelming advantage. The soul catcher has not lost a single soul yet. In front of the last city that has not been enchanted. A wisp of black gas came and formed a terrifying figure wearing a black robe and a crown on his head. King Qin Guang came here quietly, spanning the air, looking down at the city below from a high vantage point. Seeing the city gate, his eyes were still calm, without any ripples. He simply raised one hand, and the terrifying yin energy turned into a palm that could travel thousands of miles and fell down with a bang. Boom! The city gate was shattered into pieces in an instant. The soldiers defending the city didn't even have time to react before they were beaten into a ball of mud. Blood was seeping out and the smell of blood lingered in the sky. Countless people were so frightened when they saw this scene that they lost their minds and their minds went blank. Pity, Your Majesty, order me to capture the city as quickly as possible and do not hold back. Otherwise, the soul catcher could use you again. Let's go. King Qin Guang's eyes were filled with sinister energy, which turned into a ball of black air, and he attacked fiercely. The killing continued at a rapid pace, with blood gushing out from all over the city. What? Please let us go. We are willing to surrender. Ah! He alone killed all the officers and soldiers defending the city, and they wailed in pain. In the blink of an eye, the collapsed city wall turned into a river of blood and corpses floated everywhere. The scarlet blood flowed down the city, bringing with it a terrifying and eerie aura that frightened everyone who saw it, as if they were in the netherworld. Hiss. Is this guy still human? No, this person is definitely not an ordinary soul master. It's over. He is a soul saint level existence. Run. Notify the garrisons and nobles in the city, we can't hold on. After just one round, many of the surviving soldiers were so frightened that they fled in all directions under the pretext of reporting, no longer having any will to fight. Isn't this funny? With one palm strike from the opponent, a large number of soldiers on our side were killed. How can we fight back? Moreover, what they did was absolutely correct. Because now, the inner court army is their only hope. Only there can one find an army of elite soul masters from aristocratic academies. Want to run? The king won't allow it. Seeing that someone in the field wanted to escape, King Qin Guang's eyes flashed with a cold light, and a strong and oppressive aura instantly surged out from him, and the strong smell of blood was overwhelming. Swa! His figure shot out instantly. Silently. The whole person turned into a ball of black gas, like the undercurrent in still water, or like a ghost from hell that chooses its prey, walking around in every corner of the city, quickly killing the remaining Tiando soldiers guarding the city. During the whole process, countless wailing and screaming were heard, and some people even knelt down and begged for mercy, hoping that King Qin Guang would spare their lives, but it was all in vain. King Qin Guang came on the orders of Emperor Qinzheng and he acted without mercy. Get started. Knife fall. Heads are rolling. Soon, the defenders of the 5 cities, who had been on high alert and not allowing anyone to go out, all turned into homeless ghosts. Especially on King Qin Guang's side, the speed of killing people was so fast that they didn't even have a chance to escape or resist. In the distance, the people who were watching out of curiosity were stunned and felt cold all over. The originally bustling streets became silent at that moment. This is real slaughter. Kill until the sky is stained with blood, kill until the world is silent. King Qin Guang glanced at them without showing any emotion, and just spoke indifferently. I am here on the orders of the emperor, and I am sure you all know this. Today, I am here, and this city belongs to your majesty. If anyone is dissatisfied, at this point, black air burst out of King Qin Guang's eyes, and he stomped his foot hard on the ground. With a loud bang, the earth cracked and several terrifying deep pits were formed. This is the consequence. Ding! The host's soul-snatching envoys killed 8,300 great soul masters, 40,000 soul warriors, 12,300 soul masters, and 2 soul kings, which strongly affected the plot of Tang San's battle against the martial soul empire in the future. Get the energy of the military symbol. The detection has obtained 30,000 military energy, and the host has integrated the authority of Emperor Yin, and can be locked and summoned. Detect that the host can currently summon black and white impermanence through the energy of 10,000 military symbols. The host can be detected by using 20,000 military talisman energy to summon 30,000 demon messengers. Note: Soul Catching Envoy, destined to capture souls, will take your life. Note: the soul catcher symbolizes the following characters: ox-headed horse-faced, black and white impermanence. Specify the summon. Randomly draw. As soon as the war ended, Qin Zheng received the settlement news from the system. As I expected, by killing and taking down the 5 cities, I can indeed obtain abundant military energy. Qin Zheng narrowed his eyes and looked at the specific system information that appeared in front of him, and smiled indifferently. Specified summons. Black and white impermanence, and 30,000 demon messengers. Black and white impermanence, he has been waiting for a long time. Otherwise, if he did not deliberately summon the other 9 Yama kings and King Qinguang was ordered by him to guard the city, there would be no one available. What's more, apart from this black and white impermanence, there are also demon messengers, who are also ghost soldiers under the command of the 10 ghost commanders. The ghost envoy can be resurrected infinitely through killing, and the soul catcher can imprison people's souls and keep them for his own use. Both of them are very powerful, which makes Qin Zheng very much looking forward to seeing what different abilities this demon messenger will have after he summons him. Detect the host's choice of designated summon, summon black and white impermanence. Detect the host's choice of designated summoning, summon 30,000 demon messengers. Note: the current space is too small, the host can specify a space for placement. Qin Zheng, is there good news from your army? Qian Renxue looked at Qin Zheng's eyes, which showed some joy, and couldn't help but ask. There was a hint of inexplicable emotion in the voice, and more of it was confusion. Because after seeing how many powerful troops appeared under Qin Zheng's command during his trip to Tiando City, she suddenly realized that she seemed to have dug a hole for herself. 20,000 soul catchers with unpredictable powers, plus an army of 1,000 skeletons that can be resurrected infinitely. If a few more large armies came, perhaps even the top 3 sects would find it difficult to restrain Qin Zheng. At that time, if she still only mobilized the army in the identity of the Holy Maiden of the Spirit Hall, she might not be able to stop the other party, and even finding the titled Douluo would be useless. Because Qin Zheng also has titled Douluo under his command. In other words, this gambling game has already begun to slip out of Qian Renxue's hands. This intuitive performance was enough to make Qian Renxue realize that she seemed to be in trouble. Hearing this, Qin Zheng looked at Qian Renxue, saw the unnatural smile on her lips, and smiled faintly. Of course, otherwise, how can I accept you, the prince, as my subordinate? There was a hint of playfulness in his words, as if they were a double entendre, which made Qian Renxue stunned for a moment. Then a slight blush appeared on her cheeks, and she opened her mouth to say something. Qin Zheng's voice sounded faintly. Catch ghosts and help reward the good and punish the evil. Zan, the black and white impermanence of the underworld. Audience, Qian Renxue. Chapter 31. When Qian Renxue heard Qin Zheng summoning the black and white impermanence, her long eyelashes couldn't help but tremble. This guy has a large army under his command. Qian Renxue looked at Qin Zheng, looking at his calm face, as if even if the army dispersed and even the people who were shouting beside him left, he remained calm and looked as if he had everything under control. She was a little nervous. Admittedly, she didn't know who the black and white impermanents were, let alone whether it was the name of a force or an individual. However, the reality is that under Qin Zheng's command, he has 20,000 soul masters and soul summoners, 10,000 yin ghost envoys, as well as 1 title and 2 soul saints. A camp of this level is enough to crush most forces. Tiando Empire. If Qin Zheng really sent his troops there, there would be no way to stop him. Therefore, no matter what this so-called black and white impermanence is, it actually has no influence on Qin Zheng. The only one affected is her, Qian Renxue. Because if the Spirit Hall does not take action to stop Qin Zheng, she will become a maid and serve Qin Zheng for the rest of her life. But if it is stopped, it will not be an ordinary stop. She did not want to send several titled elders of the Spirit Hall to stop Qin Zheng, and she did not want the Spirit Hall to become completely hostile to the other party. Ah, Qin Zheng, Qin Zheng. The more I understand you, the more I can't see through you. He is obviously a teenager, but he has such incredible abilities. What kind of person are you? Outside the carriage, 5,000 yin ghosts pressed forward together, and the dull footsteps echoed in the empty land, depressing and solemn. Along the way, countless creatures retreated. This is truly a situation where the yin army is passing through and not a single blade of grass can grow. Tread. However, at the moment when Qin Zheng conveyed the order, the group of ghost messengers stopped in their tracks, and then all looked up. Their cold gazes penetrated the void, and two figures seemed to be reflected in their eyes. A figure, wearing a white official uniform, tall and thin, with a pale face, and the words, "First sight brings wealth," are written on the official hat on his head. His eyes are sharp but kind, and he looks smiling. The soul catcher of the underworld, Bai Wucheng. A figure, wearing a black official uniform, with a fierce face, a fat body, a small and dark face, and the words, "Peace in the world," were written on his official hat. There were soul-calming chains wrapped around his arms. A strong yin energy burst out from his body and swept around, forming a sharp contrast with Bai Wucheng. The soul catcher of the underworld, Black Impermanence. The black and white impermanence came from the horizon, and the violent evil spirit calmed down the moment it approached the chariot. Standing before the Qin government's chariot, no matter who they were, their chillingly cold expressions disappeared, and were replaced by the respect of a minister meeting an emperor. Your Highness, I am Bai Wucheng, and I am Xie Bian. Your servants are He Wucheng and Fan Wuju. Meet Emperor Yin. The voice resounded through the sky, and the yin energy disappeared. Xie Bian and the other man were clearly two yin spirits, but in front of Qin Zheng, they completely concealed the yin energy in their bodies, just like ordinary people. Even the weapons in their hands disappeared into the void. This is the highest courtesy a subject can show to his king. No matter how strong, how vicious, or how brave, you can't bring a knife with you. Walk, follow me to see these two beloved ministers. Inside the carriage, listening to the sounds coming from outside, Qin Zheng was the first to walk out. He had been looking forward to seeing the black and white impermanents, who were well known to everyone in his previous life, for a long time. Soon, the figures of Xie Bian and the other person appeared in Qin Zheng's eyes, and along with them, there was also information marked by the system next to them. Character: Xie Bian. Character: Fan Wuju. Realm Seal Transformation. Level 91 titled Douluo. Projection of the heroic spirit, trapped in a permanent seal, can be unlocked through subsequent killings. Note: the highest realm is the Ghost Immortal, which cannot be upgraded further. Commander Value: 43. Loyalty: 100. Note: evil ghosts can take souls away, and the god of death can go to the underworld freely, visible to the world and invisible to the world. It can also absorb the yin souls of women and disperse the yang souls of men. Note: when the black and white impermanents personally take souls, they can be integrated into Fengdu City, but this will cause the soul of the person being taken to be completely scattered. Even if they are resurrected by means against the will of heaven, they will lose all their memories. Scattering the yin soul and yang soul, is this what is commonly known as being thrown into the 18 levels of hell, and never being able to turn over. Interesting. My two beloved ministers, there is no need to be so polite. I am still waiting for your protection. Looking at the character introduction of black and white impermanence, a smile appeared on Qin Zheng's lips. If the soul catcher has such ability, it is in line with the ability and identity of the black and white impermanence, and it also makes him act more unscrupulously. After all, there are people in the god realm who can resurrect people. He doesn't want to kill someone and then be able to revive the person again and again. He is indeed a titled Douluo. However, just when Qin Zheng was satisfied with the abilities of the black and white impermanence, Qian Renxue's voice came from behind him. Qin Zheng looked up and saw Qian Renxue looking at her with a complex look in her bright eyes. Qin Zheng, how many people like this do you have under your command? Speaking of this, Qian Renxue's pretty little face fell completely, looking frustrated. She asked herself, as the young master of the Spirit Hall, there was no one in the world who had more titled Douluo than her own. But the person in front of me is really a special case who deserves to be killed. How long has it been? From capturing a city, to sending troops to Tiando City, to killing the defenders of the 5 cities, and capturing the city. The time that has passed is only a few days. But Qin Zheng brought her infinite shock in such a short time. 3 titled Douluo gathered together. These are titled Douluo. What does this concept mean? Let's ask the world. Even the 7 treasures glazed tile sect, one of the top 3 sects, only has this number of titled Douluo. Qin Zheng is just an ordinary duke, what right does he have? Thinking of this, Qian Renshue's expression suddenly froze, and then she looked at Qin Zheng suspiciously. Having such a large army is not something that can be achieved in a day. This immediately reminded Qian Renxue of the humiliating time when she was briefly humiliated by Qin Zheng but was unable to move. Perhaps, in this gamble, the hunter was not her from the beginning to the end. The Qin government is far from being as peaceful as it appears on the surface. Did he want to play tricks on her from the beginning to the end? Seeing her in such a miserable state, he stepped on her harshly. How many such people are there under my command? Qin Zheng couldn't help but chuckle when he heard this. When Qian Renxue asked this question, he knew very well that in this bet, the daughter of the Pope of the Spirit Hall was beginning to get scared. The presence of 3 titled Douluo here is enough to make everyone dare not underestimate them. Only, under the whole world, is it not the king's land, and the coast of the land is not the king's ministers? If I tell you, there are several, hundreds, or even thousands of people like this under my command. Dare you believe it? The scene fell into deathly silence. Qian Renxue stared at Qin Zheng's proud expression, her beautiful eyes sparkling, her heart pounding, and her cheeks flushed. Boys who have capital, domineering and self-confidence are really fascinating. No one would dislike this kind of man. Even Qian Renxue is no exception. Maybe at the beginning, she was thinking about conquering Qin Zheng, but after getting to know him over this period of time, her feelings towards Qin Zheng may have undergone a qualitative change, but she was not aware of it. Humph, Qin Zheng, you may not be very old, but your tone is very arrogant. I'm waiting for the letter. Qian Renxue took a deep breath, the blush on her face faded, and she chuckled. She didn't say whether she believed it or not, but her heart was inclined not to believe it. Infinite number of titled Douluo. No one would believe such crazy talk. Even if Qin Zheng said it, it would be the same. But after Qin Zheng said this, Qian Renxue didn't want to care about what the other party was thinking. After all, she was the one who schemed against him first. Even if he wanted to play tricks on her, it was his own fault. What's more, it is impossible for such a confident and domineering natural emperor to waste time playing tricks on her. Her sixth sense is very accurate. Don't believe it. Seeing that she didn't believe it, Qin Zheng didn't say much. His eyes flickered into the distance, with a blazing fire in them. But this day is not far away. The army is advancing continuously. The only extra thing is 2 titled Douluo. On the road where Qin Zheng sent troops. Tiando Empire, Tiando City, in the Imperial Palace's meeting hall. Can someone tell me? Qin Zheng is rebelling, what's going on? It's noon. Emperor Shui Yi sat on the dragon throne with a calm expression, but his eyes were suddenly cold, and his old body was filled with the rage of thunder and lightning as if a storm was about to come. Below him stood a dense crowd of civil and military officials. They looked at each other in bewilderment and dared not speak. Because in the middle of them, there was a person lying without any hands or feet, and even his eyes were blind. Or to be more specific, it's a human pig. Of course, if it was said that this was just a human pig, no one in the court would panic. But they recognized this man as the old eunuch that Shui Yi had sent out to confiscate Qian Renshue's property in order to restrict Qian Renshue's power. With his arrival, he brought information that Qin Zheng was rebelling and that a mysterious soul Douluo master appeared under his command. This made all the civil and military officials in the court fall into silence. Speak. But Shui Yi would not give him the capital to remain silent, and he roared immediately. In front of Tang San and others, his elegant temperament disappeared, and the terrifying pressure of the emperor was fully revealed. Your Majesty, I think this old eunuch is exaggerating. Maybe Qin Zheng did not rebel, but was driven crazy by him, so he killed people in anger. If the emperor issues an edict, he will definitely apologize to the world. Negotiation is the right thing to do. There was no way to continue pretending to be dead, and immediately an official stood up and said something. Oh no, Your Majesty. At this moment, an 800-mile-long scout came from outside the palace and ran all the way to Emperor Shui Yi. He couldn't even catch his breath and said quickly, "Report from the front line." Qin Zheng declared himself emperor and established the Great Qin Empire. From then on, the nobles and the emperor could not rule the empire together. The crown prince urgently mobilized 30,000 troops from the border of Zhoucheng but was defeated miserably. All 30,000 soul masters died in Lingcheng, and no one survived. Now, the traitor Qin Zheng has led a large army to Tiando City. On the way, he has captured 5 cities in a row. His momentum is unstoppable, and the crown prince is nowhere to be found. Or, at this point, the scout's voice trembled a little, "Perhaps His Royal Highness the Crown Prince has already passed away, Your Majesty." The whole room was dead silent. These words made the officials who were just thinking about peace talks speak like a joke. If killing the army of soul masters was not a big deal, then rebelling and claiming to be emperor, and bringing a large army to Tiando City, was this Qin Zheng's attempt to negotiate peace? It was ridiculous. Great. Very good. The cold light in Emperor Shui Yi's eyes could no longer be suppressed, and his incomparable anger and grief were revealed in his words. "How dare this traitor rebel against me? Do you really think that just because you have an army under your command, you can compete with the 100 years of efforts of our Shui clan? Come with your army, I will make sure he dies without a burial place." Shui Yi said coldly, and issued decrees one after another. "Pass on my order," announced Qin Zheng's move to the city. "Summon the noble garrison in the city, the spirit masters of many academies such as Li Yizong, and the Wuhun Awakening Hall, and fight the enemy together. And inform the 7 treasure glazed tile sect, the Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex sect, and the Spirit Hall." They said that the traitor Soul Master Qin Zheng wanted to kill their family's genius Soul Master, and asked them to send troops to help. "Draft an imperial decree, asking Mr. Du Gubo to help me win this battle. If he wins this battle, his granddaughter Du Guyan will be named Princess Zhaojun and given the same honors as Shui Ke." After saying this, he waved his sleeves, stood up and left. "Retreat. Your subjects, we respectfully bid farewell to our emperor. Long live the emperor, long live the emperor." In Wuhun City, a message spread to the Soul Master academies that came from all over to participate in the finals. Taking into account the serious consumption of soul power in battle, the top leaders of the Spirit Hall decided to give each Soul Master army a day of rest. All expenses will be paid by the Spirit Hall. As soon as the news came out, many colleges began to feel a stir. Shrek Academy, Xiao Gang, since the Spirit Hall suddenly announced this information, why don't we let Xiao San and the others go out and relax? With the competition approaching, being too depressed would be counterproductive. Flanders said this in front of Yu Xiaogang with smiling eyes. In addition to thinking this, he also wanted to make some money back while the Spirit Hall was covering all the expenses. In the past few years, with Tang San and others' continuous learning, they almost spent all their money on Flanders and turned him into a poor old man. Master Yu Xiaogang listened to the news from Flanders and nodded in agreement. After Flanders left, he stood in front of the window and looked in the direction of the distant Spirit Hall. "The sudden stop of the competition is your last act of kindness towards me. Give up on killing Xiao San. Or do you intend to become my enemy completely and take advantage of this period to mobilize the army to kill Xiao San?" After a pause, Yu Xiaogang's eyes showed seriousness and his voice was filled with coldness. "I said, if this is the case, no matter what you do to me, you and I are mortal enemies, and we will fight to the death. Bibi Dong, I hope you don't forget. Wuhun City, Pope's Palace. The great priest Qian Renxue, Pope Bibi Dong, the elders of the worship hall, and the rest of the elders' hall were all gathered together at this moment. Among them, Snake Spear Douluo was revealing everything that happened between Qin Zheng and Qian Renxue, even emphasizing the fact that there was a titled Douluo-level powerhouse under Qin Zheng's command. Hearing the message from Snake Spear, everyone in the hall felt a surge of emotions in their hearts. There is a faction headed by Qian Renxue of the Six-Winged Angel clan, and another faction headed by Pope Bibi Dong. At this moment, a fierce dispute and confrontation occurred. The Soul Master Finals was stopped because of their dispute, not because of Bibi Dong alone. Bibi Dong placed her scepter aside and sat on a high seat with Qian Renxue, looking elegant and graceful. Her rosy cheeks were flawless under the sunlight, and her graceful figure looked like she had never given birth to a child. At this moment, she said calmly, "At this moment, the Soul Master Finals is the top priority. If it is closed for no reason, my spirit hall will definitely lose its reputation in Douluo continent. As the Pope, I will not allow this. Besides, Qin Zheng rebelled against Tiando because the Tiando Empire wronged him and killed his entire family. But Shuiye is from the spirit hall and has nothing to do with Tiando. She also has the thorny porpoise to protect her, so she will be fine. And if we make a big fuss about this matter, it might arouse suspicion. After a pause, she made the final decision, so, this Pope does not agree to rescue Shuiye. Everyone turned their eyes to Qian Renxue. The Pope is the Pope after all, and there may be disputes among the people, but no one dares to contradict the Pope. Except Qian Renxue. Bibi Dong, no matter how dissatisfied you are, Xiao Shui is still your child. And there's no logic in what you say. Qian Renxue looked at Bibi Dong with calm eyes but a colder voice. Over the years, because of what happened back then, he tolerated whatever Bibi Dong did, but this incident made him feel disappointed. Shuier, although she is a girl, will always be the only child of his Qian family. The mistakes of their generation should not be passed on to the next generation. But I am the Pope. Bibi Dong's face was calm and she did not give in. Oh, Pope. Qian Renxue smiled inexplicably, and his smile was cold. But when you, the Pope, met Yu Shaogang that day and thought about releasing the Hoshan Douluo child, you didn't think like this. Is the death of the spirit hall's Pope unimportant in the eyes of you, the Pope? As soon as these words came out, Bibi Dong's face froze. You have eyeliner. What a joke. This Pope's palace belongs to my Qian family. Just because I don't tell you about what you did doesn't mean I don't know. Qian Renxue's eyes became even colder. You are crazy. You don't like Xiao Shui and let her go to the Tiando Empire. I will follow your ideas as a mother in the matter of the angel inheritance. I won't say more. But I can't tolerate this. I can't tolerate the decision not to rescue Shuiye. Elders Zhang Mo, Qian Jun, and Guang Ling, I order you to rescue Xiao Shui immediately. If Qin Zheng kills the saint of our spirit hall, then, neither the Heaven Do Empire nor him will be spared. Yes, Grand Priest. Upon hearing the Grand Priest's order, the three priest elders left the scene instantly. Bibi Dong watched all this coldly without saying anything. For one thing, the Pope has no power to order the enshrinement of elders. More importantly, even though she is the Pope and Qian Renxue is the High Priest, most people in the Spirit Hall only listen to the High Priest. Not many people care about her, the Pope. The Spirit Hall belongs to your Qian family. Oh, Qinzunji is dead. Qian Renxue, just wait. I will tell you who owns the Spirit Hall. The nobles cannot rule the world together with the Emperor. There was no need for Emperor Shuiyi to spread the news deliberately. The nobles in Tiando City had already received the information first, and all the civil and military officials put aside their differences and gathered together. Ridiculous. I have been in the officialdom for decades, and I have never heard of such a thing. Haha, young people are not afraid of tigers. It seems that Qin Zheng still does not have the qualities to be an emperor. If you want to break the rules, even the old duke can't do that, let alone him. Many powerful figures among the nobles sat in the inner hall, looking at the imperial edict on the table and shaking their heads. They knew that Qin Zheng would rebel, but even they had never thought that Qin Zheng would be so brave and so stupid. Not to mention sending troops to Tiando City, he actually proposed such a theory. Can't the nobles rule the world together with the emperor? Ah, if before, they could still consider the fact that Qin Zheng was also a noble and used various reasons to not send troops to help Emperor Shuiyi, but at this moment, they could not bear Qin Zheng to continue to be alive. Because they all regarded themselves as the masters of the Tiando Empire, and completely separated themselves from the common people who had no identity, no background, and no foundation. In their eyes, civilians are just dogs serving them. Therefore, Qin Zheng wanted to take back their power. No one can tolerate the nobility. Over time, there will always be people who want to challenge our authority. But rules are always rules. They can be bent but cannot be broken. Qin Zheng will definitely lose this trip. Let's vote on whether to send troops, money, and food. Someone spoke, with a cold light in his eyes. To this, everyone nodded slightly. Passed unanimously. Tread, tread, tread. The city gates were wide open, and the chaotic and loud footsteps echoed continuously in this Tiando city. The royal guards, representing the royal family, stepped out of the palace for the first time, fully armed. Beside them, there are the Spirit Hall Teaching Committee headed by Meng Shenji, and the sect disciples headed by Titan of the Power Clan. There are also powerful soul masters from various advanced soul master academies in the Tiando Empire. Their number was huge, tens of thousands of people, gathered outside the city. Tiandu's military flag flickered under the scorching sun, standing against the wind, filled with a fierce desire for killing. The atmosphere was solemn and arrogant. Qin Zheng lost both his parents when he was young, and his only grandfather also died. You said this person is Qin Zheng's closest relative. On the top of the city wall, Titan frowned and said as he looked at the woman in front of him who was wearing a bloody prison uniform, had disheveled hair and drooped eyes, and was obviously in a deep coma. Of course, Zhe Long smiled, very sure, however, although she is called a close relative, in fact, this woman is more like Qin Zheng's wet nurse, who only takes care of his daily life. Because she is a maid who follows Qin Zheng's mother, and she is a 43rd level strong attack system battle soul master. It's interesting to talk about this. In order to protect her, the old man fought with me at the cost of his life. I put a lot of effort into catching her. At this point, Zhe Long couldn't help but shook his head. What a pity that so much energy was wasted. Before I could even torture him properly, Qin Zheng started looking for trouble for me. But fortunately, Qin Zheng wants to attack Tiando City in the name of clearing the court. I want to see what this young emperor will do after I give him this morning dress. How can I face myself? Tread, tread, tread. Before Goran finished speaking, the sound of heavy and orderly footsteps could be heard from afar, with a very powerful voice. Every time there was a roar, the ground would shake violently, blowing up sand and dirt all over the sky. It seemed as if even the ground could not bear the march of such an orderly and powerful iron army. Coming. As for the movement caused by the march, the Soul Douluo were the first to notice it. Without any discussion, they immediately looked towards the distance outside the city. Looking from afar, thousands of figures wearing cold armor gradually appeared. Their steps were in step and their military appearance was magnificent. Before they even arrived, a solemn murderous intent was already overwhelming. But at this moment, Golong and others were not looking at this group of troops, but were staring at the large and luxurious carriages that were protected in the middle by this group of troops. Qin Zheng. The 5,000 yin ghosts were in uniform and powerful. Although they were yin soldiers, they were as intimidating as a group of lions when they walked. When they got close to the Tiando soldiers who were surrounded outside the city, they stopped. His eyes were cold and icy as he scanned every person present, his desire to kill growing. This army is very strong. Not only is his soul power at the soul sect level, but his aura is also not to be underestimated. As the most talented and powerful soul masters among all the academies in the empire, as well as the most elite troops, everyone on the Tiando Empire side can see how powerful this team is. It was also because of this that a depressing atmosphere instantly lingered in the hearts of everyone in the Tiando Empire. No one dares to underestimate the team under Qin Zheng's command. Swa. At this moment, a corner of the curtain hiding the interior of the carriage was lifted. Qin Zheng walked out from it. Qian Renxue, who had always been beside him, did not appear. This is Tiando City. Qian Renxue still retains the appearance of the emperor. His appearance will inevitably cause an uproar in the entire city, which is unnecessary for Qin Zheng. For one thing, threatening with the status of the crown prince will not make the Tiando Empire surrender. What's important is that by doing so, he will arouse hatred among many civilians. This will do more harm than good to the Qin government. Besides, the Qin government does not need to resort to such despicable tactics. The army under his command is enough to kill 7 people in and out of Tiando City, where there is no titled Douluo. My mind slowly recedes. Qin Zheng first glanced at the army in front of him with huge age differences, and then his eyes fell on the top of the city wall, which symbolized the soul figures of the army, the 5 soul Douluos. Boom. The two stared at each other, neither giving in, and their invisible gazes seemed to be clashing in the void. Even the atmosphere between the two armies at the city gate became tense. War seems to be on the verge of breaking out. Traitor, no wonder you were able to slaughter the prince's 30,000 troops, yet you secretly hid such a large force. You have evil ambitions. How kind the Heaven Do Empire has been to you. But your grandfather wanted to assassinate the genius of the Soul Master competition, and you betrayed him and rebelled. You are so tyrannical, and you still want to purge the emperor's court. You are not worthy. Zhe Long took the initiative and used his soul power to enhance his voice on the city wall, roaring towards Qin Zheng. His behavior was very clever. He took advantage of the fact that Qin Zheng had not yet issued the order to start a war and directly denied all the reasons for Qin Zheng to send troops, and then labeled him as a traitor. Only, Great Marshal Gelong, your voice sounds so powerful. It seems like you've been having a good time during this period. Qin Zheng looked at him from afar, smiled faintly and spoke. His voice was calm, but it could be heard from afar. But soon, his expression turned cold and his voice became icy. Unfortunately, I have had a very bad time during this period. Because my grandfather was unjustly killed by you. Because my grandfather was unjustly killed by you. Qin Zheng said coldly, his eyes as sharp as knives, staring at Zhe Long on the city wall. At this moment, the aura brought by the human emperor destiny in his body suddenly opened up, which shocked the latter, as if he was locked by a prehistoric beast. This guy obviously doesn't have much power, but why is his aura so terrifying? Zhe Long felt a sense of panic for no reason. He stared at Qin Zheng, as if trying to see some clues in the other's eyes, but he didn't get an answer. Taking a deep breath, he suppressed his panic and yelled loudly. Unjustly killed. How dare you, traitor, bring up what happened back then? You, the Qin family, were ungrateful and attacked the spirit masters of various academies in public. You were killed on the spot. This is already proven. What do you want to say by using this matter? What do you want to do, haha? Qin Zheng smiled coldly, and his voice came out loudly with a wave of his sleeves. Gurong, you said I was ungrateful, but have you ever thought that I am the son of a duke, and after my grandfather passed away, I inherited the title. Now I am the duke, second only to the emperor, and above all others. Since ancient times, the emperor and nobles of the Tiando Empire have ruled the country together. You just made a conclusive statement based on invisible evidence and killed nearly 5 cities' nobles. Are you saying that all the nobles in the 5 cities are rebels? Or is it that killing someone on that snowy night is justified, and if the nobles resist, they would be ungrateful? These words were flawless, causing Zhe Long's face to turn dark and red, gloomy and uncertain. Indeed, the number of deaths was a bit too high, but most of the people on the execution list were nobles who had no power and were drawing salaries without doing anything. This was also something that the powerful nobles tacitly accepted. Because whether it is the nobles or Shui Yi, they all want to concentrate their power. In this regard, the death of a group of insignificant mosquitoes is not enough to be taken seriously. But who could have imagined that among this group of nobles who only had titles left, there would be a troublemaker like Qin Zheng? After hearing all these words, how should Golong respond? Saying that group of nobles deserved to die. Where is the evidence? Where is it? Without substantial evidence, based on today's scene, it will inevitably lead to the king not being a king and the minister not being a minister. To put it bluntly, if everyone knew that the great emperor Shui Yi couldn't even control the nobles under his command. Gorin couldn't even imagine the price that would be paid. But he remained silent, and Qin Zheng did not give him any time to breathe and pointed at the Golong. Speaking of cruelty, the Crown Prince Shui Qinghe wanted to kill me, but his plan failed and he was killed by my army instead. Is this my cruelty? If that's the case, then you, Golong, are the unrivaled evil demon. Everyone in the world should demand it. These words were spoken with great force and without any flaws. It can be said that all of Gorin's words just now were returned to him. Okay. Zhe Long gritted his teeth, his face sullen. What a sharp-tongued kid, don't you want evidence? I will satisfy you. Someone, bring the remnant of the Qin family to me. Tread. In an instant, the Tiando soldier who had previously detained the unconscious female prisoner pushed her up. The moment Qin Zheng saw that man, his face, which had never shown any emotion, suddenly changed. But soon, he stopped and his expression returned to normal. However, those hands clenched quietly. Because he saw clearly that the woman was from his Qin family. Qin Zheng, I'm going to ask you a question. Zhe Long took the female prisoner, grabbed her hair, pushed her violently in front of him, and asked with a sneer, do you still recognize this person? As he spoke, he seemed to have just remembered something, and said playfully, remember it. She knows where your rebellious grandfather died. If you say you don't know her, the remains of that old man, including her, will die with regrets. The woman whose hair was grabbed seemed to be in pain and woke up slowly, but soon saw Qin Zheng's figure and immediately struggled to speak. Her voice was very hoarse, and even if she could still speak, it couldn't be heard far away. But Qin Zheng could clearly see the meaning of her lips moving. Run. Just one word meant that the other party recognized him. Qin Zheng stared in silence, murderous intent flashing in his dark eyes. Zhe Long, you are very smart and lucky to have a person from my Qin family alive. Let her go. I can keep you alive. Ha ha ha. Zhe Long laughed sarcastically, unable to hide his smugness. She's in my hands right now, and you're telling me to let her go. Qin Zheng, you're too naive. Given the current situation, it would be better for you to surrender and let our Tiando soldiers kill the elite soldiers under your command. Otherwise, I will kill her. As soon as these words were spoken, there was an uproar inside and outside the city. Everyone's eyes stopped on Qin Zheng. The Tiando Empire's troops all showed joy on their faces, and the solemn atmosphere just now dissipated a lot. They faced the Yin Guishi under Qin Zheng head-on, and they knew very well that the other party's strength should not be underestimated. If they could make the other party surrender directly, it would undoubtedly be the best strategy. On the other hand, the Yin Guishi and the Black and White Impermanents were all looking at Qin Zheng. This guy, doesn't he want to play by the rules? Seeing this scene, Qin Zheng's expression turned completely cold, and the murderous intent in his eyes could no longer be concealed. Originally, he wanted to play by the rules slowly. After all, this trip was carried out in the name of holiness. If he sent people indirectly, it would undoubtedly cause great suffering to the people. This would be detrimental to his improvement of the destiny of the human emperor and his enthronement. Boiling a frog in warm water is the wisest behavior. But you should never, ever, ever talk about the lives of my Qin family members and the whereabouts of my grandfather's body. You should never, ever leave a person alive here. Because this place is not the historical dynasty of the previous life. If you continue like this, even if I have to deal with the increase in the power of the human emperor, I will find it difficult to tolerate you. Thinking of this, a cold smile gradually appeared on the corner of Qin Zheng's mouth, and he suddenly looked up at Zhe Long. Forget it, Gelong, since you don't want to play by the rules, then I will play with you. Black and White Impermanents, kill him and save that woman. Yes, sir. The Black and White Impermanents beside him immediately took a step forward, and the ground under their feet turned into a ball of dark yin energy, and they were heading towards Golong with a terrifying speed and power. In just a moment, when they reappeared, they had already come to Goran's side. Boom! The next moment, a terrifying evil spirit swept out, and a terrifying and gloomy black stick suddenly appeared in He Wucheng's hand, and then it was smashed towards Golong's body, and the bells on it were ringing. The Morning Stick, the weapon of the Black and White Impermanents. It can summon souls and even lock souls. Now, with the full force of the two of them, the yin energy was like covering the sky and the sun, adding to the sound of the bells, causing the people around them to be stunned for a short time. The next moment, there was a loud bang. Golong, who originally had a look of fear on his face, was hit by the Morning Stick and turned into a ball of blood mist. He is a powerful attack-type soul Douluo above level 80, the number 1 military figure in the Tiando Empire, the commander-in-chief of the 3 armies, and also a soul Douluo-level strongman. Died so easily. It was a miserable death. No body left. The woman who had just been caught by Zhe Long had been rescued by Bai Wucheng. The two men retreated quickly, one holding one side, and returned to Qin Zheng's carriage before putting her down. This scene happened so quickly that no one present had time to react. When everyone reacted, they looked at Goran, who was already dead. The scene suddenly became quiet and there was complete silence. Everyone looked at Goran, who turned into a ball of blood mist. The field first fell into deathly silence, and then was filled with a surging noise. Lord Gelong didn't even have time to meet him and died right away. Is this guy still human? If the two armies go to war, can we really win? The death of Zhe Long caused panic among everyone in the Tiando Empire. At this moment, even though their camp still had these 4 soul Douluos, they were unable to suppress the rapidly declining morale of the team, and many young soul masters even began to think about retreating. How to spell? A dignified soul Douluo died so easily, without even the strength to resist. And looking at the way the 2 strong men under Qin Zheng left in a leisurely manner, it was obvious that they still had some strength left. Such unpredictable abilities are unstoppable, let alone 4 soul Douluos, even if there are 7 more. Who dares to claim victory? He can easily kill a soul Douluo without even revealing his true spirit form or soul skills. Where did this guy come from? On the city wall, Meng Shenji and the others' indifferent expressions suddenly changed, and their eyes shrank drastically. Because even they didn't see clearly how Goran died. They could only see He Wucheng hitting Zhe Long with a morning stick, and then heard a strange sound of a spirit calling bell. Their minds fell into a brief confusion, and when they reacted, Zhe Long was already dead. It was a horrible death, without even a chance to fight back. But precisely because of this, even if they didn't see what happened, they could be sure of one thing. That is black and white impermanence, a titled Douluo who is at least level 90 or above. Otherwise, in the eyes of these soul Douluos, it would be impossible for him to easily kill a soul Douluo without even revealing his martial soul and spirit ring. It's getting difficult. At this moment, there is only one way to solve the current situation. Peace talks. Meng Shenji looked at Qin Zheng below with a serious expression and spoke in a low voice. There was another sentence he didn't say, which was that if there was no peace talk, he would be the first to leave. As Soul Douluo and the one who controls a great force, neither of them is stupid. If Qin Zheng did not have any titled Douluo under his command, they would be able to stand up for Shui Yi. Then when a titled Douluo appeared on the battlefield, no one wanted to stand out. Because even the weakest titled Douluo is far from being able to contend with by the few people present. The difference of one level is almost like an insurmountable chasm, let alone the difference of so many levels. Perhaps, if they lead a large army and fight the enemy to the death, they will have a chance of winning. However, there was no blood feud between them and Qin Zheng, and there was no reason for them to fight to the death for Shui Yi. No one would think of leading the army to fight to the death with Qin Zheng here. The other people nodded. No one objected. Your Majesty, we have already detected this person's aura just now. Qi and blood are flowing backwards, all limbs are broken, and toxins are still gathering in the internal organs. Even if we try to save him, I'm afraid she won't live for a few more days. Black and white impermanence laid the prisoner woman flat on the ground, stood in front of Qin Zheng with his hands clasped and spoke. Qin Zheng did not rush to deal with them, but got out of the car quickly. Only when he walked to the side of the woman did he half squat and stare at her from a distance of millimeters. There was a long silence. In his eyes, the woman in prison uniform had messy hair and her body was stained red with dried blood. Her clothes were stained with her scarred flesh and blood, revealing a fishy smell. Call. Qin Zheng's breathing seemed to be urgent. He stretched out his hand and wiped the blood-stained cheek of the other party. When he saw the two words, Qin Ni, burned by fire on the forehead, his arm paused. Engrave. Qin Zheng whispered, his hands clenched quietly. Just the two words, Qin Ni, may seem harmless, but what a humiliation. For women, even the most despised ones, it is a deathly humiliation. And at this moment, the person whose name was engraved was exactly someone from his Qin family. He is a loyal and brave man of the Qin family. Cough cough. At this moment, the woman was breathing in more than out, and when she coughed softly, several pieces of broken organs came out. But when she saw Qin Zheng, her dazed eyes lit up again. She saw Qin Zheng wiping his cheek, opening his mouth hurriedly, and raising his hand with difficulty. This is not a last burst of light, but she is afraid. This is the inferiority complex of being a maid in the Qin family. She is afraid that she will dirty the body of Qin Zheng, the young duke. But after trying for a long time, she could only barely utter one word. Dirty. After saying this, she dropped her hands weakly and fell into complete coma. It's really you. And minimum. Qin Zheng quickly grabbed the other person's falling hand, his eyes gradually turned red, and he was filled with murderous intent. Even though his appearance had changed drastically and his voice was hoarse, he could still recognize who this person was. Even if the bones are broken, the tendons are still connected. Although there is no close blood relationship between the two, they are like close relatives. Because of this life, although he was not very talented and his parents died when he was young, he was the little duke who was doted on by everyone in the Qin family. His grandfather loved him so much that he gave almost everything for him. Knowing that she will grow old, she will repeatedly perform military exploits for him in front of the snowy night. The Qin family's guards and maids also treated him as their own family and almost doted on him. That was why, when the Qin family members died, he was so angry that he directly ordered the killing of all the Tiando guards, leaving no one alive. Even though he was an old eunuch, he disregarded his own reputation and turned himself into a human pig and gave it to Emperor Shui Yi. This is anger, and it is also the anger of him as the last bloodline of the Qin family. It is also the grief and anger over the death of loved ones. But he didn't know that in a place he didn't know, there was a member of the Qin family who was captured by the Tiando people and was tortured in the prison and was dying. If I had known this, I should have sent troops earlier. Sorry. Seeing Qin Zheng's performance, Qian Renxue, who was hiding in the dark, couldn't help but frown. At this moment, her cold heart seemed to be grabbed by a big hand. Maybe it was because she felt uncomfortable seeing Qin Zheng and that woman being so intimate. Or maybe she just didn't like seeing Qin Zheng like this. Or maybe both, but she didn't think much about it and spoke softly. What happened to this cunning guy now? Qian Renxue asked herself. She and Qin Zheng have known each other for quite a while. But it was precisely because of this that she became even more confused. Because during this period of time, she had seen the domineering side of this young emperor. She had also seen him conquer the world with a smile and talk, planning strategies, and seeming to be able to calculate all the affairs of the world. But she had never seen Qin Zheng's appearance at this moment. This does not mean that her appearance has changed, but her state of mind has changed. Qian Renxue, who is an angel spirit bestowed by God, is herself a symbol of light. Although her strength is not as strong as the soul Douluo in the field at the moment, the perception ability she possesses is definitely unmatched by others. She could feel that Qin Zheng at this moment was filled with all the malice in the world, and was even filled with murderous intent. If he was a benevolent king who cared for the people before, then Qin Zheng at this moment was like a bomb that could explode at any time. As long as the fuse of this explosive is lit, only killing can quell the burning anger in his heart. Looking at the woman lying in Qin Zheng's arms, whose breath was gradually becoming weaker, Qian Renxue narrowed her eyes slightly. It can actually affect your state of mind. Who is this woman? I dare to come before the emperor without being summoned by his majesty. Roll. When Qin Zheng and Qian Renxue fell into silence, the black and white impermanence beside Qin Zheng suddenly shouted. The voices of the two of them shook the whole world, and the negative energy was so strong that it made several people who were flying from the sky and wanted to make peace stop. But Meng Shenji and his companions did not retreat, but stayed where they were. Among them, Bai Baoshan, the education committee member of Tiando Royal College, spoke loudly towards Qin Zheng's position. I am one of the 3 teaching committee members of Tiando Royal Academy, Bai Baoshan. Qin Zheng, this is all a misunderstanding. I promise you in the name of the Education Committee that as long as you are willing to withdraw your troops, you will still be the Duke of Lingcheng and still be able to command a large number of troops. And Shui Yi will issue an apology letter to the Qin family, telling the world that he was wrong. We can't fight this battle anymore. His voice enhanced the soul Douluo's soul power and spread all around. Obviously, this is very sincere. They came here just for peace talks. No one wants to fight with the two-titled Douluo. The sound of Meng Shenji lingered in the sky for a long time. Qin Zheng was standing in front of the carriage. When he heard the voice, he couldn't help but look up. Looking at the appearances of those people, he did not respond, but pointed at the Qin family member who was unconscious and nearly dead next to him. What about her? Hearing this, the people above were all stunned, and then Tai Tan frowned and said, she is just a servant, what's the importance? If you think this matter, we are wrong. I can also make the decision and let you choose any beautiful maid in the Snowy Night Palace. Qin Zheng, what do you think? He said, looking at Qin Zheng. How generous. I can choose any maid in the palace. Qin Zheng just chuckled. He said this without any sarcasm in his attitude, which immediately made the people above happy. They thought that this battle could be resolved through negotiation. Just when they were about to speak. But the next moment, Qin Zheng's expression turned cold, his dark eyes flashed with madness as he glanced at everyone. What a pity. You killed my entire Qin family and humiliated my Qin family women. Now I am just telling the world that I am wrong. If I can choose my maid, then I want to negotiate. Hee. After a pause, he grinned, his white teeth flashing a sinister brilliance, his tone filled with frightening murderous intent and chill. Don't you think it's too late? Hearing Qin Zheng's words, several people obviously did not react. They were stunned at first, and then they became anxious. Meng Shenji had already spoken, thinking about negotiating with him again. Qin Zheng. But before he finished his words, Qin Zheng's cold voice rang out. Kill. A casual voice. Next moment, boom, bang bang bang. The figure of He Wuchang next to Qin Zheng disappeared in an instant, and sonic booms piercing the void continued to be heard in the air. Then, the people above felt a chill all over their bodies, as if they had fallen into an icy cave. Their eyes blurred and a pitch-black stream of light suddenly appeared, changing from extremely still to extremely moving at an extremely fast speed. It contained a terrifying yin energy and was extremely evil. Its black impermanence. At this moment, the underworld god who had always been quiet in front of Qin Zheng was no longer respectful and peaceful as before. It looked like a demon crawling out of hell, with murderous eyes and overwhelming evil spirit. "Come here, morning stick." It roared angrily, and a pitch-black stick appeared out of thin air in its palm, emitting infinite yin energy. After being grabbed by He Wuchang, it smashed down at the nearest person. Cut. And the person in front of him was Meng Shenji, who had just advocated peace talks. "This guy is crazy. He actually wants to kill me." Meng Shenji looked at He Wuchang attacking directly towards him, and this thought instantly flashed through his mind. At this moment, his scalp was tingling, because he felt a fatal threat from the black stick that pierced through the void, which made his heart tremble violently. He could almost conclude that as long as He Wuchang's move succeeded, he would be seriously injured if not killed. This idiot has gone crazy. There is no point in negotiating. Everyone, take action and kill this beast on the spot. Meng Shenji's eyes were filled with coldness. The death of Zhe Long was still vivid in his mind. He didn't dare to fight against He Wuchang in front of him alone. After calling for help, the 8 spirit rings in his body instantly emerged from his feet. Yellow, yellow, purple, 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 black, black, black. The terrifying black demon martial spirit emerged from behind him, surging with a pitch-black soul energy. 7th soul skill, Black Demon's true form. 1st soul skill, Possession. Put me in an endless dream loop. Let us lend you a helping hand. Several people nearby were also roaring angrily, and they instantly displayed their strongest postures towards each other. The martial soul's true form exploded, and 8 soul rings suddenly appeared in the sky, flashing dazzling colors, sharp and terrifying. The 6th soul skill, Titan. At this moment, under the pressure of He Wuchang's strength, everyone is fighting with all their strength. Rumbling. The terrifying soul power unique to the soul Douluo was boiling. 4 terrifying martial soul lights continued to bloom from the sky, and 8 soul rings, with various terrifying attacks, bombarded towards He Wuchang's position. Boom. The attacks from both sides collided, and in just a moment, the entire city border was reduced to ruins and was completely razed to pieces. Sand and rocks flew everywhere, forming a huge deep pit. The whole world was filled with raging soul power, creating a scene of world destruction. The armies on both sides were all thrown backwards one after another. Even Qin Zheng was safe and sound because of Bai Wuchang's protection. The fight between the two sides was so fierce. However, the 4 soul Douluos all burst out with their full strength in an instant. Still, useless. The black impermanence holds the Hell's Morning Stick, which can hit both the real body and the soul. Moreover, he is a powerful ghost fairy. Although he is sealed at the moment, he only has the strength of a titled Douluo at level 91. But at this moment, as it burst out with all its strength, the negative energy spread from the Morning Stick, rolling like thunder and breaking the sky like a bolt of lightning. Even the void was rippling. What a terrifying movement. The 4 soul fighters working together can temporarily compete, but it will only be temporary. Because this is not just a crushing battle between titled Douluo and soul Douluo. It is also a confrontation between the ghost immortals from the ancient times and the powerful soul masters of this world. Therefore, the outcome of this battle was determined from the beginning. Boom. After a brief confrontation of a few breaths, among the 5 terrifying energy wave swords, a sharp black stick suddenly appeared, still carrying a terrifying murderous intent. Morning Stick. He Wuchang directly tore apart the killing moves jointly arranged by the 4 soul Douluos, and holding the Morning Stick, the negative energy burst out like a tide, smashing heavily on Meng Shenji's head. What? When the 4 soul Douluos saw this scene, their pupils suddenly contracted and they couldn't believe it at all. You know, this is a full-strength attack from the 4 soul Douluos. Among them, there are no less than 2 soul Douluos at level 86. Now that they are all united, even the titled Douluos dare not confront them head-on. But what about this black impermanence? He not only broke through the killing moves they had set. And looking at its power, there is not even a trace of decadence. What does this mean? This means that the attacks of the four of them couldn't even cause any harm to He Wuchang. The four soul Douluos were all shocked at this moment. However, the Grim Reaper in the underworld did not care whether they were shocked or not. The morning stick in its hand had already reached the top of Meng Shenji's head. Seeing the other party's lack of reaction and the look of horror on his face, He Wuchang's eyes were cold and sharp. Die. Puff. There was a muffled sound, like thunder. Meng Shenji, who had exerted all his strength and drained all the soul power in his body, causing his face to be as pale as paper, was suddenly hit on the head by a heavy object, and his head instantly became dented. Then, his entire body burst into life like fireworks and turned into a blood mist all over the sky. The body is separated. You can't die anymore. After Jie Long, the soul Douluo, the Tiando Empire has another soul Douluo, and at this moment, fall from the sky. However, He Wuchang did not stop at all, and the yin energy in his body did not weaken at all. After killing one person, it stood up straight, and swept its scarlet eyes towards the remaining three people. A strong murderous intent, like a tangible aura, emanated from its body. Now, it's your turn. The head of the Royal Academy's teaching committee died like this. Is this guy still human? Mid-air, looking at the shocking achievement of He Wuchang killing a soul Douluo in an instant, the eyes of Titan and others were extremely solemn. Even though they tried to suppress it, some fear was gradually arising in their hearts. It was really Meng Shenji. He died too quickly and too miserably. A dignified level 86 soul Douluo, who hadn't even forced out Black Wuchang's martial soul and soul rings, was beaten into a ball of blood mist by the four of them working together. What a crushing record this is. Even if the four of us soul Douluo join forces, we can't fight against a title Douluo. The other party doesn't even need to use his martial spirit or spirit skills to easily kill us. I'm really not reconciled. As the Academy's teaching committee member who had the most thoughts, Bai Baoshan was the last person to betray the spirit hall in the original novel. When he saw Meng Shenji being killed instantly, he immediately felt a kind of wailing of grief. But soon, his expression turned cold. Well, since we can't beat him, then let's not fight. Mr. Titan, Jilin Education Committee, send out orders for the army to advance and deplete his strength first. Using our numerical advantage to fight a battle is our only chance to turn the tables. Otherwise, we will surely die today. Bai Baoshan quickly formulated a strategy and spoke rapidly, saying that He Wuchang was so powerful that even if 5 of them worked together they could not defeat him, let alone when 2 of them had already been killed. This battle can only be dragged out and cannot be fought forcefully. Titled Douluo is strong, but his strength is limited after all. As long as He Wuchang is successfully surrounded and suppressed by the army, it will be their time to turn the tables. When the time comes, the 3 of them will take turns attacking, and He Wuchang will definitely show a decadent look. Swah. But the next moment, he hadn't finished speaking. He Wuchang's figure disappeared from the spot, and when he reappeared, he had already arrived in front of Bai Baoshan. He looked down at the old fat man in front of him with a sinister smile. You are quite smart. It's a pity that you said it too early. Let me, Your Excellency, not tolerate you. As soon as it finished speaking, layers of evil aura suddenly burst out of its body, its pupils instantly turned black, and its whole body was filled with a terrifying sense of oppression. It waved the morning stick in its hand and hit Bai Baoshan. In an instant, the void vibrated, negative energy continued to spread, and the sound of soul-calling bells raged around. This black impermanence has already burst out with all his strength at this moment. Because it saw that the Tiando army only relied on the few soul Douluos in front of it. As long as these soul Douluos were all slaughtered, then this battle would be over. For He Wuchang, who is at level 91, killing a few soul Douluos is a piece of cake. At this moment, kill the smart ones first. How brave. Martial soul true body, open. 3 soul skills activated simultaneously. The heavenly star furnace appears, protect yourself. Bai Baoshan was frightened by this scene and his face turned pale. He did not dare to hesitate at all and activated his full soul power on the spot. The 8 soul rings suddenly appeared and he used his martial soul to the extreme, turning it into a huge furnace to cover himself. Bai Baoshan, a defensive soul Douluo, with the soul of Tianxing furnace, the ultimate defense. At this moment, he had been pushed to the extreme. Stop him. Soon, the morning stick fell with a loud bang, and collided violently with the heavenly star furnace. The heart-pounding soul power spread out, making bursts of roaring sounds in the air. However, it is useless. With a bang sound, the two weapons collided violently. The fierce yin qi and soul power continued to compete, and it seemed that there was no winner. Boom! But this was destined to be just an illusion. Almost in the blink of an eye, dense spider web-like cracks began to appear on the surface of the Tianqing furnace. In an instant, it turned into light spots all over the sky and shattered with a loud bang. However, the morning stick has only lost a bit of its dark and gloomy aura, but its power is still unstoppable. It landed on Bai Baoshan's chest. First a dull bang sound was heard in the air, and then Bai Baoshan's round body slammed directly to the ground. Boom! A crack instantly appeared on the ground, and countless Tiando soldiers and even Academy Spirit Masters were trembling with fear, and many of them even gathered around. But when he saw the figure in the scene, he instantly gasped and his face turned pale. It was visible to the naked eye that Bai Baoshan's chest was dented by the blow. Although his death was not as tragic as Meng Shenji's, his eyes were wide open and full of astonishment. Since then, 2 of the 3 sole Douluo Education Committee members of the Spirit Hall have died. The strong man from Tiando who set out on this expedition. Only the last Contra Education Committee member and the leader of the Power Clan, Titan, are left. How can we fight this? After killing 2 members of the Education Committee and the military commander Goran, this evil demon has gone mad. We have been fighting for such a long time, the shocking movement will definitely attract the attention of Seoul Douluo from all over the imperial city. As long as we persist, the army will gather together and we will win this battle. If we retreat, the imperial city will be flooded with blood. Soul masters belonging to my power clan, lead the young men from the noble academies to attack. If we win this battle, all of you will be promoted to higher positions and receive a huge reward. All the generals, listen to my orders. Charge! In mid-air, Titan and Jilin had already taken advantage of this time to retreat frantically, and only roared loudly when they retreated to a safe area. His words were cleverly said. If they were at the front line, they would not be of much importance. But at this moment, this is the imperial city, where everyone's family is. Once he said this, combined with Emperor Shui Yi's angry order and the possible family feuds and national hatred, it would easily arouse the desire of the Tiando officers and soldiers to defend their country. Because no one would gamble their own life on whether others would show mercy. Nobody. What's more, there are many strong men from the Lizzie sect and the noble Deadpool on the scene. Although they were all terrified by He Wucheng's incredible fighting power, they had to fight after all because of their camp. Because when the nobles and the emperor come together, and the strong men from the 3 sects will arrive soon, no one thinks Qinjiang can win, so. Now, all they have left is a fight to the death. Shut up. He Wucheng killed Bai Baoshan instantly from mid-air. He had not yet recovered from the frenzy of killing, and when he heard Titan and others shouting like that, how could he bear it? Immediately, it was filled with murderous intent and moved towards the last 2 people. Get ready to end this. That's right. The people under this traitor are all tyrannical and bloodthirsty. If we retreat today, our family may be killed by them in the future. At this point, we have no choice but to give it a try. However, before He Wucheng could move, crazy shouts surrounded the place. The words of the 2 titans worked. The troops of the Tiando camp began to regroup, raised their spears and pointed them at He Wucheng. They were aggressive and although their faces showed fear, they still looked like a military force. That was the iron-blooded murderous aura coming from the army charging. Rush ahead. At this moment, all the Tiando warriors present at the battle burst out with an absolute determination to die. Tens of thousands of different martial spirits bloomed in the void, their soul power rampant. Although the attack power of a single individual was not strong, their strength was in huge numbers, which was intimidating enough to be seen from afar. They were prepared to sacrifice their lives to stop this extremely powerful black impermanence. In response to this, He Wucheng frowned slightly. He did not start killing first, but looked back. After seeing the young man in black clothes with a cold face watching all this without giving any answer, He Wucheng just realized that this young emperor of his family was completely furious this time. Immediately, it sneered, stroked the soul-catching iron chain around its waist with its hand, and then the terrifying yin energy in its eyes rose again, and a sinister voice came out of its mouth. Interesting, so interesting. A group of ants dare to dream of killing God. Then I will gladly accept it. Boom. As He Wucheng's last roar fell, a tyrannical and oppressive aura instantly surged out from him, and the strong smell of blood was overwhelming. Then, a figure rushed out, and joined together with countless armies. Puff! Blood kept falling in the void. As soon as He Wuchang entered the Tiando army, he was not afraid of being surrounded. Instead, he was filled with bloodthirsty aura and started slaughtering crazily. The morning sticks were constantly swinging and the soul-calling bells were constantly ringing. Every time He Wuchang's morning stick fell, it brought out a terrifying blood mist, and dozens of officers and soldiers died in the fight. After a few breaths, nearly 1,000 Tiando soldiers who were ready to fight to the death were killed by him, without even a splash. Broken limbs and arms covered the ground, and the strong smell of blood seemed to be tangible, making the place look like a dark and eerie den of ghosts, which made people feel terrified from the bottom of their hearts. But the officers and soldiers of the Tiando Empire did not retreat, and continued to rush forward one after another. The atmosphere was solemn and heroic. The number of people is also decreasing. With He Wuchang's continued killing, the bloody massacre of the siege was fully displayed at this moment. Bai Wuchang, I don't want you to let her live, but at least she can live through today. Is it possible? When Black Wuchang started killing, Qin Zheng no longer paid attention to the scene. He knew that the Black Wuchang of the underworld knew his choice. Kill, kill until the sky turns dark and the earth turns black, and until the heroic spirits of the Qin family rest in peace. Otherwise, we will fight until death. Your Majesty, I will. Bai Wuchang looked a little hesitant. I will do my best. The transfer of power is indeed one of the ways to keep people from dying. After all, the poison in his body is greater than the injuries. If you suppress the toxins, you will be able to survive for a while. But as it is impermanence, the people of the Qin family are all mortal bodies, not to mention they are unconscious at the moment. How can they withstand the transition of the underworld power in their bodies? But since Qin Zheng had spoken, it could only try. Soon, it began to use its negative energy to hang on to the life of the female prisoner. At the same time, Qian Renxue had quietly returned to Qin Zheng. Looking at the cold expression of the young man in front of her, it seemed that within this young body, there was a murderous intent that was enough to burn the world, she said softly. Qin Zheng, this is the difficult part when the nobles and the emperor are united in purpose. You could have taken the city first, and then slowly worked with the nobles. As long as we spend some money, even if we can't take down the nobles, we can still weaken their power. It just so happens. After a pause, she glanced at the unconscious Qin family members and finished the rest of her words, is it worth it? Does it worth? These three simple words made Qin Zheng shift his bloodshot eyes and look at her calmly. He didn't say anything, but he didn't show any impatience either, and gestured for the other party to continue. I don't think it's worth it. Qian Renxue obviously understood the meaning and said decisively. The nobles are just a tough piece of meat in the Tiando Empire, but they are not rotten meat that cannot be removed. It doesn't matter whether you kill them or not. You can get the city by doing this now, but so what? Afterwards, you will definitely gain a reputation as a tyrant, and the entire country of Tiando will rebel. Perhaps because of the army under your command, these people will not dare to say anything. But this does not match the benefits and costs you can get. Qian Renxue said this from Qin Zheng's perspective. Qian Renxue saw and remembered Qin Zheng's previous actions. She had never seen a man so outstanding, and that was why she didn't want him to make the wrong move. The feeling of having all your efforts wasted is not a pleasant one. However, Qin Zheng still looked at her indifferently, his pupils still scarlet. No matter whether it was the cries of killing that continued to come from the distant battlefield, or the unfavorable situation that Qian Renxue analyzed for him, he seemed to not care at all and was indifferent. You're right, there is something wrong with this move. He finally spoke, his tone indifferent, but soon, his eyes became sharp, filled with murderous intent, but I don't care. A surge of evil energy rose up from the black-clothed young man. Even Qian Renxue, who was standing next to her, could not help but be moved. Qin Zheng withdrew his gaze from Qian Renxue and turned to look at the battlefield in the distance. Countless corpses formed by blood and fire appeared in his eyes, full of coldness. Originally, I didn't want to start a massacre, but since Zhe Long threatened me with the people of my Qin family, it meant that they didn't want to play by the rules with me, and the rest of the people all acquiesced and didn't object. They negotiated for peace only because they saw how strong the army under my command is. So, tell me, why did I agree to the peace talks? Hearing this, Qian Renxue fell silent. From her perspective, she was thinking of taking it step by step and taking over Tiando City. This is also the reason why in the original novel, she would lurk in there, and even keep letting Tang San go, until her identity was completely exposed, and then she would think of slaughtering him. Because she feels that as long as things are under her control, she can take her time. Play until everyone submits to you. Qian Renshue's idea was not wrong from an objective point of view, but she was destined not to be Qin Zheng. Qin Zheng is a descendant of the Qin family and a direct descendant of the greatest emperor of all time. As an emperor, he was the one who made the rules from beginning to end. No one can escape the rules he sets. If there is someone, Qin Zheng has only one way to deal with this. That's killing. Kill until everyone is afraid, kill until no one dares to do it. Silent. It seems you understand it too. Qin Zheng looked into the distance, with a hint of cold amusement in his voice. In terms of power, the army under my command is tens of thousands strong. In terms of strength, my fierce generals have the power of titled Douluo. If they want to abide by the rules, I will abide by them. If they don't want to abide by the rules, then I won't abide by them. They are not worthy yet. Besides, I told you that day in the high tower of Lingcheng after I saw the 30,000 strong army defeated by me. Qin Zheng continued coldly, his eyes like a demon, wantonly and ostentatious. If the nobles don't submit to me, I'll crush them. If the royal family rebels against me, I'll kill them. If the soldiers don't obey me, then kill them. Kill them until they obey. And they dare not resist me anymore. Today, I still say the same thing. Today, I will not spare those who rebel against me. If a whole city rebels against me. After a pause, Qin Zheng's eyes revealed a murderous look, then I will massacre the city. I want to see if the bones of these people are as hard as they appear. Qian Renxue was silent for a moment, and then watched He Wucheng slaughtering crazily on the battlefield, with almost everywhere he went stained with blood. She then looked at the young man in black clothes in front of her. His face was cold, and his two pairs of dark pupils reflected the flames of hatred. She spoke again. But if you force them like this, they will definitely fight to the death. The field is the best example. Really, Qin Zheng still didn't care, grinning, a desperate fight, no problem, then I will lend a helping hand to Wucheng, let this blood dye the sky red. Capture the souls of the beasts in the mountains and transform them into your own body. Announce, 30,000 demon messengers. Project here and kill the gods. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe for more videos.